has just been, not good.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. So lots of fascinating news today. 7 Democratic senators have betrayed us. Of course, we'll explain why and how. And then we have a ceasefire in Lebanon, kind of, but the relevant party's not involved in it. But it kind of is, so I will explain that. And then lots of talk of religion on today's show. The Trump administration is literally going after the Catholic Church. It's not just like a little grievance. I think it's coordinated. And I think you guys might guess as to who I think is coordinating it, but we'll explain why. That's a little bit later in the program. All right, Casper, what do you got?
Well, before we begin, I want to address something that I came across on social media today, just to kind of give you a sense of the shady, sleazy type of propaganda Zionists put out there to try to destroy people's lives or slander them. So Canary Mission put out a video where they do a side-by-side with me and Nick Fuentes. Now, as much as I hate to admit it, every once in a while, Nick Fuentes spits bars. He does. When he stays away from attacking Jewish people and specifically talks about the crimes committed by Israel, he's spitting bars. He's telling the truth. And I talk about that issue a lot on the show. So they did a side-by-side where we're saying similar things. In no instance are either one of us in that side-by-side video attacking Jewish people, but we are being incredibly critical of Israel and its influence over the United States government. Interestingly enough, they left out the clips of him specifically going after Jewish people. I've never gone after Jewish people. So I just wanted to make that abundantly clear. Canary Mission, you are a sleazy, disgusting organization. I'm not afraid of you. And I will continue speaking my mind on this show every single time without fear from the weaselly little losers like you guys try to destroy my life. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm a lot stronger than that.
Okay, you're forcing me to say something about that. Look, I want to have a conversation with somebody like Peter Beinart or someone about what Jewish Americans don't know. Because 98% of Jewish Americans have nothing to do with any of this, right? But what they don't know is that there are Gestapo like Canary Mission who go around and in their name trying to destroy people and lie and smear and bully and try to intimidate, etc. So like at some point there has to be some sort of responsibility to clean up your own house, right? So if there was a group of like Muslim American leaders going around trying to destroy people's lives for criticizing Islam, I would be the first to speak out against that. I wouldn't be the last. I wouldn't be like, go get them. Or like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Oh, there's a bunch of people posing as representing all Jews in the country who are like the worst thugs in the whole country. Clean up your house, man. So, like they're all constantly like, you don't ever criticize us, right? And then they go and smear everyone that isn't Jewish, 8,000 waits to Sunday. But then when we ask Jewish American leaders to do something about it, they're like, nope, nope. Well, okay, well, all right. I guess you like what they're doing. I guess you like the lies and you like trying to ruin people's lives if they disagree with Israel. So at some point, they have some degree of responsibility to come out and be decent, moral people. Otherwise, we're gonna have to believe that they like the Israeli Gestapo in this country. Anyways, let's do the news.
Yeah, all right. Let's start with this.
Chuck Schumer was one of only 7 Democrats to vote to send bulldozers to Israel. 40 Senate Democrats voted no. These bulldozers are used to illegally destroy Palestinian villages. Mr. Schumer, you are out of touch with the base of this party and with your own caucus. Step aside.
It feels great to hear a Democratic lawmaker call out the mealy-mouthed, weak, and devoted to Israel politicians on the Democratic side of the aisle. And that's exactly what Congressman Ro Khanna did as it pertains to Senator Chuck Schumer, one of the Democratic senators who voted to block Bernie Sanders' effort to prevent two bills that would provide additional offensive weaponry to Israel. Now, before I get to all of the details, Cenk, I'm sure you've got a lot to say about this.
Yeah, so I do. So we're gonna talk about how to vote out these traitors, and they are 100% traitors to Democratic voters. We're gonna talk about who the heroes are, like Bernie Sanders, who introduced legislation in the first place. By the way, there's 12,000 bombs that are also part of that. Anna's gonna tell you more about that in a sec. And I want to give a shout out to the one and only Democrat calling for Chuck Schumer to step aside. And as usual, it's Ro Khanna. Hey, where are the other Democrats? That guy just screwed us, Schumer did, big time. Do any of you care? Or was those 40 votes also fraudulent? Anyway, Anna, give them the facts, and then I'm gonna go all in on these guys.
Oh, I know you are. Okay, so let me give you the details because this has to do with a vote that was held in the Senate yesterday, and it was meant to block two proposed weapons sales to Israel. Now, I do it in scare quotes because we don't sell anything to Israel. We gift Israel these incredibly expensive weapons. But either way, even if they were going to buy them from us, I think it would have been a good idea to block that anyway, since they're committing genocide, ethnic cleansing, not just in Gaza, but now they've spread their lovely ideology and actions into other countries in the Middle East and dragged us into a war with Iran. So with all of that in mind, the first, I guess, cache of weapons would be for 12,000 bombs, each weighing 1,000 pounds. Okay. The second was for the sale of bulldozers. You might be wondering, oh, maybe they need bulldozers to help the people of Gaza, get through the rubble and try to, find their deceased family members who have been trapped under the rubble, in some cases for as long as 2.5 years. No, that's not why they want the bulldozers. Israel would like the bulldozers to do what they've been doing in places like Lebanon, where they've effectively been bulldozing entire communities. Okay, so Senator Bernie Sanders led the mission to block those two bills. And here's what he said on the House floor yesterday.
Bottom line, the American people, whether they are Democrats, Republicans, or independents, conservatives, moderates, or progressives, want to make certain that their tax dollars are spent responsibly. And in strong and growing numbers, they do not want us to continue spending billions of their taxpayer dollars in support of the illegal, horrific, and expansionist war policies of the Netanyahu government in Israel. A recent Quinnipiac poll also found that 60%, including 3/4 of Democrats, 2/3 of independents, and 37% of Republicans, I say that to my Republican colleagues, 37% of Republicans do not want the US sending more military aid to Israel.
So there you have Senator Sanders making a strong case for blocking these weapons bills. However, he does more than just give speeches. Sanders offered similar resolutions last summer, which Republicans also blocked. And in 2024, the same outcome in those cases, about half of Senate Democrats backed his effort, which obviously isn't enough Senate Democrats when you only have 50% backing what Sanders is trying to do here. Now, that was in the past. This time around, things were a little different, but unfortunately, we got close, but no cigar. So several Democrats who had opposed such efforts in the past actually changed course. So 36 Democrats voted to take up a measure that would block the sale of the 1,000-pound bombs, while 40 Democrats voted in favor of a measure to bar the sale of the bulldozers that Israel has used to level entire neighborhoods in Gaza and Lebanon. So I guess more of the Senate Democrats were in favor of the bulldozers that are razing neighborhoods in Gaza and Lebanon. Okay, great. Roughly a dozen more Democrats voted for those measures than have voted for similar ones in the past. Now, I want to be clear about something real quick, Cenk, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. It is also very likely that Democrats who maybe wanted to vote no on Bernie Sanders' effort here to block additional military aid to Israel just knew that his effort was going to fail. Probably knew that with the midterms coming up and the fact that most Democratic voters have soured on Israel, you can vote alongside Bernie Sanders, give the illusion that you support him without any real fear that this type of bill is going to pass, thus blocking additional military aid to Israel. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's 100% right. So I'm going to be nuanced here. So let's start to talk about heroes and villains. So usual villain is mainstream media. Stop saying we sold anything to Israel. You're doing that, you're lying on purpose to make it seem like Israel is buying this stuff. No, we gift it to them every time. So why are you purposely lying in all of your articles and all of your news stories about how they bought the weapons? They didn't buy anything, okay? They continue to rob us blind. By the way, the bulldozers are armed. And if you're writing garbage about how, the Israelis might be using bulldozers to help the Palestinians, well, I mean, can you imagine a more gargantuan lie? Like the Israelis would ever want to help the Palestinians, let alone the fact that they don't allow that in the part of Gaza that the Palestinians are in? And that you're using these bulldozers, we see it. We've shown you videos destroying schools and hospitals all over southern Lebanon now, like they did in Gaza. So no, they'll be used by a sick fascist state to murder more of their neighbors, and there's absolutely no doubt about that. Okay, now heroes. Bernie Sanders, thank God, man. At least he exists, and I think that that's so great for two reasons. One, he's just the moral voice of the Senate, always has been, and always gets to the right conclusion. Number two, thank God there are Jewish Americans like Bernie Sanders, so that more people don't make the mistake of thinking that this is about Jewish people and realize it's about the government of Israel, which is a different country. Thank you, Bernie, you're awesome. Now look, Bernie's too nice overall. I like what Ro Khanna is doing better because Bernie will say, hey, let's vote on this thing, and it's a great thing that he proposed. But when it comes to Schumer and Biden and those guys, but golly gee, they're my colleagues. They're not your colleagues. Chuck Schumer doesn't agree with us. God, a single thing that you think, Bernie, Chuck Schumer would betray all of your values in 1 second flat if you paid him $1, okay? Let alone the $6.5 million he's already been bribed by Israel, let alone the fact that he works for Israel. Come on, let's be honest about these things. Chris Van Hollen's another really good senator. There are others. There are good, solid Democrats on this issue in the Senate, which is a rare thing to say, so I'll take that. Now to Anna's question about the middle ground guys. So the ones that voted along with Bernie on this and had the right vote, so I'm torn on that, right? Because you know me, I take yes for an answer, and I'm happy to give them credit for voting in the right direction. On the other hand, Anna is indisputably correct that if it was a close vote and they needed one of those guys to vote with Israel, 12 of them would vote with Israel. Of course they would. You think Cory Booker's gonna vote against Israel if they need his vote? You think Elisa Slotkin is gonna vote against Israel, or Mark Kelly or Adam Schiff? No, they're all gonna vote for Israel if Israel needed the vote. Now they didn't need the vote, they won comfortably. But it does show you guys that even the Adam Schiffs and Cory Bookers of the world realize how supernova toxic it is to support Israel's war machine. It's finally gotten through their thick heads. So now you'll see a lot of Democrats pretending that they don't want to fund Israel's war machine. Okay, so get ready for that. But again, you come to the right place, and if your vote matters, especially, then I give you all the credit in the world. Okay, so far it doesn't matter, but they could. Now, one other villain before we go on, Anna, and that's all of the Republicans. They all voted, yes, Israel, we serve Israel loyally, please murder more. You John and Sally in Kansas, shut up and give your paycheck to Israel. They need to bomb more Muslims and steal their land. Republican Party
and Christians
and Christians. There's several million Christians in Lebanon, but the Republicans all of a sudden don't care about Christians at all when they get that sweet AIPAC money. Every Republican in the Senate is a whore and works for AIPAC, and every donor that comes by, they're giant liars, and they'll sell you out in a flat second. Back to you, Adam.
100%. Okay, I want to name names. Very important to name names. So we know on the Republican side who voted against Bernie's effort, every single one of them. But let's look at the Democrats. So Democrats who voted against blocking the sale of bulldozers. You have Senators Richard Blumenthal, Chris Coons, Catherine Cortez Mastro, Jackie Rosen, Kirsten Gillibrand, Chuck Schumer, John Fetterman. Get them out, get them out. Don't forget their names. And I don't want to hear a damn Democratic voter come to me, whether it's 4 years from now, 6 years from now, whenever, to tell me, no, that's not true. These Democrats never voted in favor of sending weapons to Israel. Please, let's go to the next one. If you're curious why they voted against it, money spent by pro-Israel lobby groups and donors. So you got Richard Blumenthal, he's taken over or nearly $1.7 million from the Israel lobby. Chris Coons, over $1.7 million. Christine Cortez Mastro, wow, she really did rake it in. 3.2 million, I'm rounding obviously. Jackie Rosen, 7.6 million. Man, that's a lot of money. Chuck Schumer, 6.4 million. And then you have John Fetterman, who's already taken nearly $2 million from the Israel lobby in the short period of time he's been a politician. It's just wild, absolutely wild. And then you have Kirsten Gillibrand, of course, nearly $3.3 million. So money talks. And while this is extremely disappointing and more proof that these lawmakers need to be voted out, Bernie Sanders saw this as a glass half full type situation. So I want to read his reaction to all of this. He says, "We are making progress. Today, more than 80% of the Democratic caucus stood with the American people and voted to block US military aid to Netanyahu and his horrific illegal wars. When we started this effort, there were just 11 votes. Now there are 40. That shift reflects where the American people are. Americans, whether they are Democrats, Republicans, or independents, want to see our tax money invested in improving lives here at home, not used to kill innocent women and children in the Middle East and put American troops in harm's way as part of Netanyahu's illegal wars of expansion." So there you have Senator Sanders saying out loud what we've been saying out loud here at TYT for years now, right? Because this isn't new. The border expansion, the Greater Israel Project is not some new project. This is something that Israelis in the media, Israeli politicians have been talking about overtly, openly, brazenly. And it's about time we actually believe that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, rather than have them gaslight us when they're addressing Americans in American media. At the same time, over in the House, the War Powers Resolution failed yet again. Total losers, these politicians. You're worthless. Okay, you serve no role. You should be disbanded. All right, but anyway, so the War Powers Act basically indicates, hey, guess what? If the president wants to start a war, he needs to get it approved by Congress. That whole system of checks and balances that we're supposed to value here in the United States. Well, Congress has consistently ceded their power to the executive branch. And in this case, the War Powers Resolution failed yet again, 213 to 214. Just one Republican, Representative Thomas Massey of Kentucky, voted for it, while one Democrat, Representative Jared Golden of Maine, who should be voted out of office, voted against it. Representative Warren Davidson, a Republican from Ohio who previously voted to end the Iran war, voted present because he's a coward. 3 Republicans did not vote. Yeah. They're also cowards. Cenk.
So I want to be clear. So the 7 Democratic senators that Anna read, you guys, I'm calling them traitors. Now, why am I saying that? It's traitors to
humanity,
to humanity, America, et cetera. But really specifically, I mean the Democratic voters. So 80% of Democratic voters have a negative view of Israel and do not want to send them any more arms. It's not a subtle number. It's not 52%, it's not 57, it's not even 64. It is an overwhelming 8 out of 10. And Richard Blumenthal, Chris Coons, Catherine Cortez Masto, Jackie Rosen, Kristen Schillebrand, Chuck Schumer, and John Fetterman just gave all of you guys the middle finger and said, ha ha, you think I'm gonna represent you? No, I tricked you. And then I betrayed you, and I stabbed you in the back, and I twisted the knife because my donors told me to. I don't give a damn about 80% of you. I spit in your face. That's what they did with this vote. They said, no, Israel is much more important to us than our own voters. We don't care if it's 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, or 10 out of 10. We don't care if every single Democrat in the country wants us to stop funding Israel. We loyally serve Israel and not you. That's exactly what they said with that vote. You would be out of your mind to vote for any of those 7. You're basically saying, oh, okay, I'm an idiot, I'm a sucker, take my vote, and don't care about my priorities at all, just serve. And guys, Israel's tip of the iceberg, okay? Those 7 and so many others, they serve all their donors. You think it's just Israel? They betray you with every single vote. It's all theater. They don't care about you at all. They will, and we've been telling you this for 20 years on the Young Turks. All Israel is doing is waking up the whole country to, oh, money in politics. Oh, if you give someone $3.5 million, it turns out they'll vote for you every single time. Of course they will. You would have to be so maniacally stupid that you, as like the equivalent of a national media reporter, to not understand that super simple concept. But every reporter in the country is like, oh, what do you mean? You think 6.5 million affects someone's vote? But there's such an honest, beautiful, honorable politician. Get the hell out of here, man. The media is disgustingly corrupt. These politicians are disgustingly corrupt, and their job is to work in unison to make sure that they serve the richest, most powerful people in the country, and never you, and never you. So at 8 o'clock, we do a show called The Revolution. You know, Young Turks is 6 to 8 o'clock, Monday through Friday. And at 8 o'clock, I do The Revolution. So tonight, I'm gonna ask for your help. We're gonna find primary candidates for these folks, and we're gonna make sure that we spend our time and effort to make sure that they never, ever win another election, ever. It's just like, the only reason why anybody votes for them is because the monstrous liars in mainstream media. Oh, they're Democrats. Oh, they care about their voters. Oh, they're honest. Yeah, they're purposely doing propaganda because the media also knows Israel, bow down to Israel. I'm so sick of it. Okay, so we'll do more at 8 o'clock, but for now, I want you to know this, and then I'm gonna tell you one other thing that's totally relevant to this story. NotAnotherDollar.com. That's a pledge to say I'm never gonna vote for anyone who ever gives money to another dollar to Israel. Of course not. You'd have to have your head examined to do that. And by the way, support Wolfpack. Get money out of politics. And their website is fightcorruption.us. And I love their new slogan, fight corruption, not each other. Right wing, left wing, doesn't matter. Fightcorruption.us, because as long as these sick prostitutes work for their donors, which is currently exactly what the situation is, they'll never work for you. We already got robbed of our democracy. Who are we kidding? So that brings me to the last point. You saw what Anna said on the War Powers Resolution. Oh, look at that. Israel happened to win by 1 vote. Nah, they always win by just enough votes. Do you know how many votes Israel has lost in Congress in my lifetime? 0. 0. They win every single vote, but I don't know if they're the dumbest people in the country or the most dishonest people in the country. But every national media reporter can't figure out, oh, AIPAC and the Israeli lobby gave to 94% of Congress, and they win every single vote. Gee, I wonder if that's connected. Duh. But apparently the incredibly stupid people who work at the New York Times, CNN, Washington Post can't piece that together.
They're not stupid. Like you need to get that out of your head because it's driving me nuts. They're not stupid. It's on purpose, Cenk. I haven't been on CNN. Why haven't I been? How come I didn't get an invite back on CNN?
Yeah,
it's on purpose.
Of course,
it is. Had on CNN, you know they had Emily Austin, a paid Israeli propagandist, on Abby Phillips' show the other day. It's on purpose. It's not an accident. We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
First comes strength, then comes peace.
Let's go to our members on TYT.com. Remote Dragon says, yeah, baby, Cenk's back, looking good. Thank you, brother, appreciate it. Boomer Dragon Cat says, Anna, you have your own Iron Dome. We TYTers are here for you. We appreciate you guys so much. Finally, some folks in media and one guy in politics is backing us. But you know, like everyone in power is the bad guys. So none of them have any interest in protecting us. In fact, they have an interest in burying us. So we love you guys for defending us. Jenks Left Tricep of Fury writes in, Jen, glad to see you're much better from your cold. Thank you, brother. Jared Lamano says, I just watched Bernie video before the show. He really gave it true and hard. Love Bernie. Yes, love Bernie. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, Canary Mission is an actual terrorist group. The whole point of their organization is to terrorize and smear people. Instead of going after the imaginary Antifa group, which doesn't even exist, how about going after Canary Mission, who are trying to destroy and endanger people's lives? You know why? Because almost everyone in power loves Canary Mission because they love terrorism. They love the terrorism of Israel. They love the terrorism of Canary Mission. And then the victims, the people who are occupied and oppressed and murdered, they're like, they're terrorists. No, you're the terrorist. Almost everyone in Washington is a terrorist. They love Israeli terrorism. They love Canary Mission terrorism. They're sick, disgusting people who work for other countries for money. Winston Smith says they ceded power willingly so they wouldn't be blamed. They're in agreement with the policy that Trump is pursuing. That is definitely right. EMETIB2 says, I'm so mad that Chris Coons voted against Bernie's bill. No way in hell I would vote for him again. And I'm telling everyone I know about it too, because none of them support the genocidal Israeli government. So embarrassing. Back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys. Somebody was writing in about Chris Coons during their break. Get the members only stream where you don't have to watch the ads at tyt.com/join. Anyways, Chris Coons, it was Joe Biden's best friend in the Senate. He's a corporate Democrat goon who also voted against raising the minimum wage when Biden was in charge because Biden told him to. He's deeply corrupt. He's not remotely a Democrat. He's one of the worst people in the Senate. I just want to make that clear. Another thing to make clear is how we can save you guys money. Go to Noble Mobile. Actually, you could just go to tyt.com/switch. I don't understand why everybody isn't doing this. Maybe your bills are way lower than mine were, but so the max you could pay at Noble Mobile is $50, but almost everybody pays. I should speak for myself. I pay in the 30s because they give you money back if you don't use your data, and then they're gonna give you $40 if you sign up now for the first month. tyt.com/switch. Nothing on your phone changes. tyt.com/switch. Anna, what's next?
We've got some major updates when it comes to the war in Iran and in Lebanon. Let's get started.
The Secretary of War, the Joint Chiefs Chairman, and also the CENTCOM Commander, Admiral Brad Cooper, giving an update saying the United States should be prepared and will be prepared if combat operations resume.
Our troops are highly motivated, they're focused, they're vigilant, and they're ready. And they're using this time to do a couple of things. We're rearming. We're retooling and we're adjusting our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There's no military in the world that adjusts like we do.
U.S. commanders remain in close contact with their Israeli counterparts who are also preparing for the possibility that negotiations fail.
Our American friends are constantly updating us on their contacts with Iran. Our goals and those of the United States are identical. We want to see the enriched material removed from Iran. We want to see the cancellation of enrichment capabilities within Iran. And of course, we want to see the opening of the straits.
Every piece of reporting from Trey Yinks, a reporter for Fox News, indicates that, well, looks like we are in for more war. There are signs of escalation, and it does indicate that as soon as the 2-week ceasefire is up, we will be engaging in another round of war against Iran. Now, I say that as President Donald Trump bluffs in public for the billionth time, making it appear as though he is optimistic about the peace negotiations that are happening between the United States and Iran. I'm personally not buying any of it, and neither are the Iranians. But before we hear from them, Cenk, your 2 cents.
Yeah, I want to be clear that of course Netanyahu is lying. No, we don't have the same goals. He wants 0% enrichment in Iran, which Iran has said they will literally never agree to. So that's just a recipe for permanent war if we go with the Israeli standards. Now later, I'm going to tell you why I think Israel agreed to this ceasefire in Lebanon, if it really is a ceasefire, but we'll explain why. And then Anna, I'm not as confident as you are. I want to have an interesting conversation with you at the end about whether we're headed towards more war or not.
Well, let me just begin by saying that it doesn't matter what the objectives of the United States government allegedly is. We didn't have objectives to begin with. Our objectives were given to us on a sheet of paper by the Israelis in a February 11th Situation Room meeting. And President Donald Trump, as Netanyahu's dog, will do as he's told. And that's exactly what's happening right now. There is no end to this war. If Israel wants to keep fighting, we will continue sacrificing our soldiers and using up our resources for their war. That is what's happening. That is my interpretation. So look, this week, the Pentagon sent 10,000 additional soldiers to join the 50,000 military personnel already in the Middle East. They also sent additional military assets to the Middle East. So there is a buildup happening right now during this ceasefire. Obviously, the Iranians see it, and they're not very hopeful that this is going to be a lasting ceasefire. So for me, it's obvious that the United States, didn't really negotiate in good faith during the ceasefire so far, and now they're continuing to rearm. I mean, you heard, you heard in that last video that we showed you, they're rearming as we speak, building more military assets. Now, why the hell would Iran agree to a ceasefire in the first place, knowing that the United States was going to use the ceasefire to rearm? Well, take a look.
Right now, the Iranians are rearming, they're preparing, but also, like before, but also every single day that goes by, the Strait of Hormuz is more or less closed. And that is putting more pressure on the United States under Trump. And the belief in Iran is that Trump does not make the decisions. It is the Israeli lobby, the Zionist lobby, and Netanyahu. And so the only way to force the United States to make a decision that benefits its own people is to increase the economic pressure so much that the United States under Trump or the leadership ultimately says, well, here we have to prioritize our own interests over that of Netanyahu.
So his argument is, well, we're also rearming, okay? We don't expect that we're suddenly gonna have peaceful negotiations that result in a real deal that the US abides by, honors and respects. But on top of that, even though the ceasefire is taking place, you still have the situation with the Strait of Hormuz. Now, it appears that the United States is actually now enforcing the double blockade of the Strait of Hormuz that Trump had announced earlier this week. And so in this next clip, you're gonna hear some more details about it, and then we'll get to what the Iranians are planning to do in response.
Joint Chiefs Chairman General Kane described the ongoing US naval blockade, saying that 13 ships have made the wise choice to turn around and not test the blockade. At this point, no vessels have been boarded by US forces as these ships adhere to American warnings.
So luckily, the US hasn't attacked any ships. Luckily, US military personnel hasn't gotten close enough to Iran where Iran has retaliated militarily during the ceasefire. However, ships are being turned back, meaning that Trump's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has gone into effect, is being enforced, which doesn't really solve many problems. It's actually driving the global economy further and further out of touch, basically closer and closer to a depression. And so what are the Iranians going to do in response to this? Because they partially rely on the Strait of Hormuz to transport their own oil. Well, they have other options as well in terms of transporting their resources, but also in terms of retaliating against the US. Take a look.
Do you expect the Iranian government to respond with an escalation of their own by closing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait or other actions?
Oh, absolutely. That will happen as quite soon. And I think that basically what Trump is doing out of desperation is that he's dragging down the entire global economy because he is incapable of pursuing policies that are in the interest of the United States. Basically, it is Netanyahu who wants this war to continue and the Zionist lobby. And since Trump is incapable for whatever reason, I mean, there's speculation as to why, but for whatever reason, Trump is incapable of pursuing his interests. So what is happening is that Trump is dragging down the entire global economy, including the U.S. economy, because he is obedient to the Zionist lobby.
That's exactly right. I think that this whole incident really shows the unbelievable power, the claws the Zionist lobby has on our politicians. But Cenk, I am so curious to hear what your argument is against anything I just said. You think that there's possibility for peace here?
Yeah, so look, I'm torn on this one. So I get everything you're saying, all of that is true, except there's one thing that that gentleman I think got wrong. He said, is the strait's relatively closed, so that's applying more pressure to America. No, it's not, because in order for it to apply more pressure to America, both the oil markets and the stock market has to believe that the war is going to continue. And right now they do not believe that. They believe what Trump is saying 100%, and they believe the war is almost over. So since the stock market is up, there's no pressure at all here in America anymore.
I apologize. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to do my due diligence. That was Professor Morandi from the University of Tehran in the interview on Breaking Points. I just wanted to make sure I didn't do my due diligence earlier. Go ahead.
Look, I don't know if Professor Morandi really speaks for the Iranian government or not, or I've seen him say things that are logical. I've seen him say things that are a little over the top. But like when the oil prices were shooting up and the markets were crashing, all the rich people in America were panicking. That was pressure. Right now, the markets are back to flying high, thinking, we already won the war. Trump said we won it. So there actually isn't that much pressure at all. So again, all of that goes to your point, Anna, of no, it looks like they're gonna keep going. But I have some sources that say that the Iranian government is actually think that they might get to an agreement soon, and maybe they're wrong. Maybe the source is wrong, and maybe the Iranian government is wrong. So it's hard to tell, but that was interesting. And then secondly, the US keeps acting like the war is almost over, and Trump knows that the markets crashing was not helpful to his cause at all. So if he now puts in ground troops or bombs them in the ways that he promised, it would be an enormous jolt to the markets. They would be shocked by it. And my guess is that the markets would then plummet. So, I mean, Trump has got to know that. So it would be maniacal to continue in the war, especially when it looks like a deal is relatively close at hand. I mean, it's super easy to do. All you got to do is ignore Netanyahu's demands that they not have any enrichment at all, even for an energy program. So. And JD Vance, last thing, Anna, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on, last thing is JD Vance is going around talking like the war is almost over. Again, it might all be head fakes, but Vance seems to realize how much damage the war has done to his political career. So if Trump continues the war and is just using this as a I tricked you again and then I bombed you or put in ground troops, both Trump and Vance will have voluntarily walked off a political cliff for Israel.
Yep. I would bet money on it. But for now, we got to take a break. And when we come back, I'll give you the update on Lebanon. They're trying to play mind games with you. I'm going to tell you what's really going on. We'll be right back.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to Super Chat. Mohit B825 says, real test of new elected Dems in Congress. Schumer/Jeffries establishment say to new Dems elected in Congress, okay, nice outsider campaign. Now be a good boy or girl and agree with what I do. The only proper response is hell no. Look, Mohit, if the Rebellion PAC guys bow their heads to Schumer or Jeffries, A, I'll be massively disappointed, but that's not that important. B, what I've already told all the candidates that are signing on is, if you listen to those guys, we will take your political heads off. We will tell everyone that you betrayed them and they should never get another vote or another chance again. So there's gonna be real consequences. This is not like Justice Democrats where we were all too naive, definitely including me, right? I didn't think that AOC was gonna go work with Nancy Pelosi. I wouldn't imagine that in a million years. My fault, sorry about that, guys, but I've learned my lessons. So Richard Ojeda is not gonna bow his head to Hakeem Jeffries, and neither is Shoykat Chakrabarti or Randy Bryce or any of those guys. But you're right to be concerned given the past. Konstantin Kavira says, Schumer is unfortunately one of my representatives. I've tried calling his office a few times, but it's hard to get through. Other than contributing to a primary opponent or voting against him, what can I do? You can encourage AOC to run against him. Schumer's time is up, let's go. And AOC, what are you waiting for? Take him out, take him out, take the Senate seat. This is not that complicated. Brad David 902 says, hey Cenk, just curious what your thoughts are on the Swalwell allegations. Also, which remaining candidate is the most progressive? So Swalwell's an idiot. So no matter what the details of those allegations are, he at least did it consensually, which is maniacal. So of course he should have left. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, and Scudge Jockey just joined, so they're part of TYT now. All right, somebody was asking me who to support in the California governor's race. I don't know, no one's asked for your vote. None of the candidates have showed up on the Young Turks. I guess they don't want progressive votes, populist votes, grassroots votes. So I don't know why they're not coming on. Again, unless, again, it's never about us, guys. But I haven't seen them ask for your vote at all. I don't know if they're all going and trying to win Republicans in the suburbs of California, okay? But so no, I don't know who to tell you to vote for. All right, Anna, back to you.
All right, let's get back to the Middle East because there were all these celebrations today about a potential ceasefire in Lebanon. Let's get to the details.
All of that has been making Israelis more anxious about their government's ability to stop the threats that are coming from Hezbollah. And everything that Netanyahu has promised his people, he has not been able to achieve. Also, the threat of Hezbollah, he could not diminish that. And it seems that Israel wants to dwell on the talks that were had in DC to try and put that responsibility on the shoulders of the Lebanese government and the Lebanese army to have them disarm Hezbollah.
Well, as much as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu would like to think that he and his army of child killers could, defeat Hezbollah, hasn't happened yet, and it's unlikely to happen. Now, perhaps that could explain the reason why Netanyahu has agreed to a 10-day ceasefire with Lebanon. Trump announced that Israel and Lebanon have agreed to a 10-day pause in fighting starting on Thursday, meaning today at 5 p.m. Eastern time, following excellent conversations he had with each nation's leader. The Israeli and Lebanese governments agreed to the ceasefire following more than a month of war between Israel, and this is the important part, guys, pay close attention, and the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon. So was Hezbollah part of the ceasefire negotiation? I'm gonna tell you in a minute, but Cenk, first your 2 cents.
Yeah, so a lot of this one is complicated because of the role of Hezbollah. But what is not complicated is that the government of Lebanon is not Hezbollah. And in fact, does not like Hezbollah. So it's two people that are actually technically not fighting each other, Lebanon and Israel, that it made it ceasefire deal that doesn't include the person fighting against Israel or the group fighting against Israel. So all of this is nonsensical, and every, of course, mainstream media news anchor is like, oh, we have a ceasefire! Woohoo! Trump and Israel deserve so much credit. Anyway, so look, what's really the end game here? And after it gives you all the facts, I'm going to give you the most important fact of all about this issue. Go ahead, Ann.
Yes, well, Hezbollah has released a statement about this. They said in a statement that any ceasefire must be comprehensive across all Lebanese territory and must not allow the Israeli enemy any freedom of movement. Now, Lebanon and Israel both agreed to a provision in this 10-day ceasefire that would allow Israel to defend itself against any further attacks from Hezbollah. So let's just keep it real, guys. The war is still on. Because another thing that Israel plans to continue doing during this next 10 days is maintaining their occupation of southern Lebanon so they can annex that land. They have been overt about that. So when IDF soldiers get attacked by Hezbollah, they're getting attacked because Hezbollah is resisting their annexation of southern Lebanon. And I gather that they intend to continue doing so. So Cenk, you talk about the Lebanese government and how the Lebanese leader is not a fan of Hezbollah. If it were up to the leader of Lebanon, the current government of Lebanon, the Israelis would be in charge already, not just of southern Lebanon, the whole of Lebanon. The only thing, literally the only thing stopping the Israelis from doing what they truly want to do, which is taking over this land, is Hezbollah, which is why Hezbollah is, whatever you might think about them, they are an established political party. And yeah, they're considered a militia because they actually resist Israeli aggression and land theft. Now, if Israel stopped bombing its neighbors, terrorizing and then slaughtering Palestinians, that they wouldn't have to worry about resistance to their actions. But you F around and you find out. And Israeli soldiers have been killed in recent days. So maybe that's another reason why Israel was open to a 10-day ceasefire. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see if they'll stop the fighting in southern Lebanon, but I doubt that they're going to stop. Israel never honors a single ceasefire. They always continue bombing.
Yeah, so look, the reason why I say it's complicated is because Hezbollah today put out a statement saying, okay, we'll abide by the ceasefire, but what we mean by that is not Lebanon and Israel ceasefire, but America and Iran ceasefire, which included Lebanon. And now that Israel is finally, according to this ceasefire that they reached with the Lebanese government, is going to stop bombing and attacking Lebanon, if that's true, we'll abide by it as well. Now, having said that, one of their conditions is that Israel leave southern Lebanon, and Israel has absolutely no intention of leaving southern Lebanon and has not left at all. So then Hezbollah put out kind of a useless statement. So I can't quite tell if that means that they're going to abide by the ceasefire or they're not. But Israel continues to blow up bridges that connect southern Lebanon to the rest of Lebanon. You're not blowing up schools and hospitals within southern Lebanon. They want to make southern Lebanon uninhabitable, and they want to make it so that the Lebanese, they've driven out 1.1 million Lebanese from that area. That's ethnic cleansing. They want to make sure that they cannot return so that Israel can steal more land for greater Israel. So they're not going anywhere. They've camped out in southern Lebanon, and that's the most important fact. So if I thought Israel was going to leave, then it's a different conversation. But Israel's like Bob in the movie What About Bob? You think he's gone? He's not gone. He's always there, right? So yeah, they think, yeah, we'll get everybody to stop fighting now that we're in southern Lebanon and the Lebanese aren't. Mission accomplished, just like we stole 53% of Gaza, we'll steal southern Lebanon. Ethnic cleansing well done. So, and of course, America, American politicians will be like, oh my God, they were just defending themselves. So we sent them several $1 billion more, tens of billions more. And the American media will be like, oh, they had to take southern Lebanon. Poor Israel, poor Israel. So they're gonna try to brainwash us into believing that Israel's the victim here when they're a fascist, aggressive state. Now it's the cat's out of the bag. Everybody knows Israel's evil, right?
Sure is.
You could keep lying about it, but we have eyes. They're in southern Lebanon. They're blowing everything up in southern Lebanon. And that's because they're trying to get greater Israel. I can't stand the liars in our media. I can't stand them. I think they're the very worst people in the country. Go ahead, Anna.
No, I mean, look, I share your sheer anger when it comes to the way they lie to the American people about what's really going on. How are you going to argue that Israel is targeting Hezbollah when they carpet bomb Lebanon, dropping over 100 bombs onto Lebanon in a 10-minute time frame? How is that targeting Hezbollah? How is it targeting Hezbollah when there's a funeral taking place and for a man, by the way, that was killed by the Israelis, and his whole family is there, of course, because they want to honor their loved one who was killed. And then Israel does a bombing of the funeral.
Terrorists.
Killing his infant. Oh, is that Hezbollah? Was the infant Hezbollah? Do the Israelis see Hezbollah when they close their eyes and go to sleep at night?
I hope so.
Pathetic. I hope so too. I hope so too. Yeah. I hope they're as terrorized by the terrorism that they put out in the world. So let me talk about the deaths here. Nearly 2,200 people in Lebanon have been killed by Israeli airstrikes since March 2nd.
Terrorists.
Since March 2nd. They're terrorists. 88 doctors have been killed. UNIFIL workers, these are peacekeepers, have been targeted and killed. 6 hospitals have been shuttered. And if you pay attention to Israeli media and their politicians, they openly say they're doing this similar to what they did in Gaza. This is the Gaza model, the Rafah model. Satellite analysis and verified footage show Israel has systematically demolished towns across southern Lebanon, with more than 1,400 buildings destroyed since March 2nd, according to BBC Verify, which typically gets dog walked by Israel as well. But here, I guess they had enough tenacity to tell the truth. Here's more. The demolitions follow Defense Minister Israel Katz's order to accelerate destruction near the border using a Gaza model. Entire villages, including Tebe and Aita al-Shab, have been leveled in coordinated blasts. This is what they do. And I want to give you another example. Here's a school. It's a school in southern Lebanon that the Israelis just bombed. So there you go. There you have it. Yeah.
Wow.
Looks like Gaza, doesn't it? Where every school, every hospital, every university, this is what it means when they want to erase people. Yeah. Okay, they erase them by bombing the hospitals, bombing the schools, bombing the universities, targeting the doctors. These people are sick. They're sick, and they make you out to be the sick one. No, don't ever let them play with your head. They're terrorists. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, our media is the Goebbels to Israel's fascists. Because you think they don't know that the defense minister of Israel said we're gonna use the Gaza model in southern Lebanon? Do you think they don't know that the videos we just showed you? Wait, if you're only attacking Hezbollah, why are you destroying empty school buildings? Why are you destroying the bridges? Why are you destroying the hospitals? Why did you bomb their capital, Beirut, which is not in southern Lebanon? You think the media doesn't know this? No, they know it, and their job is to cover up all of that news, make sure you don't find out, because they must serve their beloved Israel. Their job is to lie to you every night, every day. Our national mainstream media works for Israel, and their job is to lie to you to get you to love their genocidal beloved Israel. I can't stand how disgusting they are, pretending to be journalists as they lie to you every single day. Have you reported the massacres? Have you reported all of the disgusting terrorism that Israel's done? No, you haven't done any of it, right? You're still all pretending to be that Israel's the victims. I can't stand it. Now, let's talk about, do the Lebanese have a right to defend themselves? According to our media and our politicians, no. Your job is to sit there and get murdered by the Israelis. How dare you defend yourselves? Terrorists, they say. No, they're not terrorists. No, the Israelis are the terrorists invading and occupying southern Lebanon, just as they invaded and occupied the West Bank and Gaza and Golan Heights. And by the way, they're also in Syria as well. So do the Muslims that are being attacked by Israel have a right to defend themselves. And everyone in our media says, no, if you dare defend yourself or your children, you're a terrorist. But Israel, as they slaughter your children, as they destroy your hospitals, as they murder your doctors, are the victims. Can you see why I'm so revolted by every single person in mainstream media? Okay, now let me ask you this. There's 2 million Christians in Lebanon. Now I know our media hates Muslims. They're the biggest bigots in the world. And they say Muslims have no right to defend themselves. That's only for beloved Israel. Only Israel has rights, right? But now you're gonna tell a majority Christian nation here in America that Christians don't have a right to defend themselves. No, only Israel does. Do you know that Armenians have now started joining Hezbollah and fighting back against Israel? Do you know why? Because they also live in Lebanon. And so they're fighting for their homes. They're like, what do you mean Israel has a right to steal my home? And has a right to murder me as a Christian in Lebanon? What do you mean they have that right? No, we fight back. Are you gonna call those Christians terrorists? I dare you, media. I dare you, mainstream media. You're used to calling Muslims terrorists because you're the disgusting bigots and racists, every single one of you. But you're really gonna go and tell everybody in a country that's 70% Christian that Christians have no right to defend themselves. And if they dare fight back against Israel stealing their homes, that they're terrorists and they deserve to be murdered? Go ahead, I dare you to say it. They imply it with every sentence. No one has any rights other than Israel. Well, that's just not true. It's just not true. The current Israeli government are definitely terrorists by any definition of the word terrorism. And they're obviously a fascist state that is attacking all of their neighbors and literally stealing their land right in front of our eyes. The only people pretending not to see it is the reporters in this country and the disgusting prostitutes that are pretending to be our representatives that serve Israel because they got bribed by the Israeli lobby. But no, our reporters will say, no, $100 million. Politicians are so honorable. The $100 million that AIPAC spent just in this last cycle didn't affect them at all. You'd be an idiot to believe a single person in mainstream media.
By the way, I mean, I'm gonna dig into this story as much as I can for next week. So I'll be working on this as a research project tomorrow. The 11th American scientist has been found dead. Like, what's going on?
Oh, by the way, Anna, to that question, to that point, Netanyahu in a video a couple of days ago bragged about we killed 12 Iranian scientists, civilians, doesn't matter. And we murdered them. And by the way, some of them they murdered in front of their kids while they were picking up their kids from a kindergarten. That was from a couple of years ago. Then they murdered another 12, and then at the end of the video he said, oh, by the way, and then the next day we murdered another 8 scientists. So Israel murders scientists because they're terrorists. And so are you right to ask the question of who's murdering our scientists? Well, of course you are. These are the same terrorist sons of bitches that stole our nuclear secrets, that stole all of our top secrets while pretending to be an ally.
Yep. Anyway, I'm gonna look into that and we'll probably have a nice lengthy segment ready for you on Monday. But for now, we're gonna take a quick break. And when we come back for the second hour of the show, you do not wanna miss it because our Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, decided to read a fake prayer today from a movie, Pulp Fiction. We'll be right back.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Rich and powerful men abusing, assaulting, and abandoning young women. These rich and powerful men donate to the politicians in Washington, D.C., play golf with the elites in Washington, D.C. They are foreign leaders who we don't want to offend. They interact with our intelligence agencies that we don't want to disobey. There is something rotten in Washington.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
All those congressmen you just saw there are on the record as protecting the child rapists who were clients of Epstein. They have not prosecuted a single person outside of Epstein and Maxwell.
Yep.
Not one.
Is Trump engaging in this cover-up because he's in the Epstein files?
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
So as the government keeps telling us, yeah, there's other people. Yeah, they raped those girls. So what? We're gonna cover up for them. But why are you guys so mad?
A nation that chooses impunity for the rich and the powerful at the expense of our children is a nation that has lost its moral purpose. Are you on the side of the people? Are you on the side of America's children? Or are you on the side of the rich and powerful who've had their thumb on the scales and shafted Americans for decades?
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Who do you guys use?
We have AT&T.
And how much do you pay per month?
$345, and that includes a company discount.
How many people?
5 phones.
$70 a line, right? I've started a wireless company called Noble Mobile that is trying to cut everyone's bills in half.
What would like a family of 4 cost?
The average Noble Mobile user is paying $42 a month, but also they're using their smartphone 17% less.
Okay, how does that work out?
We give you $20 back in cash every month based upon how much data you use or don't use. You know when you're doom scrolling or messing around on your phone, you're like, oh wait, I'm actually costing myself money right now. The goal with Noble Mobile is to encourage us to look up at our children's lovely faces, like touch grass, appreciate life. A friend of mine calls these things our rectangles of sadness. So we're trying to change that and improve everyone's relationships with their phones.
It's a very noble cause.
Well, thank you, sir. That's what it is. Been on YouTube for 20 years.
The original political partner on YouTube, the Young Turks.
The Young Turks.
The Young Turks.
Godfather of independent media.
Favorite news platform by far. Oh, it's not even close.
The Young Turks. It's the largest online news show in the world.
I watched you guys before I had a channel at all.
And I watched Cenk, so Cenk's really the start of it all.
Big shout out to Cenk from Young Turks. Cenk Uygur, founder of TYT, a man who probably needs no introduction.
Cenk, so great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you, David.
Fan you worked for a long time, man.
Anna Kasparian is one of the most followed and influential progressive women online.
I love Anna.
Your presence has been essential for me to really grow.
Do all of you know the Young Turks? This is why what Young Turks are doing is so important.
I've watched you for many years. You are insightful. I thank you for that.
I was going to introduce myself, but it sounds like you guys might know us.
We didn't blow up diplomacy.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna, more news.
Well, I got to make a quick production note to Alyssa because I'm a moron. But anyway, Alyssa, I'm going to do C4 before I do C3, okay? When we do the second half of the story. Anyway, we got to talk a little bit about Pete Hegseth's prayer recently. Let's take a look.
The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness.
Fake Christian is quoting a movie, not the Bible, and it's insanely embarrassing. Let's take a look.
For he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
So, Cenk, it turns out that that wasn't actually a prayer from the Bible. It is a prayer from someplace else that some would argue isn't really holy, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, your 2 cents.
Yeah, so this guy's an idiot, and he thinks that if you just act tough and you quote movies, thinking it's the Bible, that'll make you a good Christian and a tough guy. I don't believe Pete Hegseth would do anything but urinate all over himself if he was in a real fight. That's how weak men talk. But okay, tell us the facts, Hannah.
Okay, so some of you might have already caught on to this, but for those who don't know, for those who aren't Christians or have really been steeped in reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, here's how Mediaite clarifies what's going on here. While the prayer didn't sound very much like Ezekiel 25:17, which in the King James Bible simply reads, "And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord when I shall lay my vengeance upon them." It did bear a strong resemblance to a fake version of Ezekiel quoted by Samuel Jackson in Tarantino's Pulp Fiction just before his character shoots a man to death. And the Pulp Fiction prayer, this is how it reads. "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the inequities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children, and I will strike down upon thee." Okay, now let's take a listen to what Hegseth said during his praying.
"The path of the downed aviator is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of camaraderie and duty, shepherd the lost through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to capture and destroy my brother. And you will know my call sign is Sandy 1 when I lay my vengeance upon thee."
That sounds a lot like the Pulp Fiction, scene. And Samuel L. Jackson is the person who was reading it or saying it before he killed someone. So, Cenk, back to you.
Yeah, he pretended that that's a prayer that another military guy was giving before they went to go rescue the pilots. Just made it all up, and he made it up from a movie. God, he's so pathetically dumb. And then Jesus said, "There is no spoon." No, bro, that was Neo. Oh God. And then the Lord said, "Luke, I am your father." No. Okay, no. I mean, it's so embarrassing. He's our Secretary of Defense. He doesn't know anything about military strategy. He doesn't know anything about defense. He renamed himself the Secretary of War when Trump ran an anti-war campaign. And then this moron didn't realize that Iran might close the Strait of Hormuz. Oops, they did. And now it endangers the entire global economy. This moron didn't know that they would attack our bases in the Gulf, and they did, killing a lot of Americans. He did not prepare for it. They did not have adequate defenses. Instead, Pete Hegseth spent all of our defenses protecting Israel, a different country, while our guys died. I don't know if he was in the middle of watching Braveheart at that point or Gladiator, but you're supposed to hire people who are qualified for the job in case we go to war. Instead, we hired a baboon who was a weekend host at Fox News. Now, he couldn't even make the A-team of Fox News. And Trump's like, I like the baboon on TV. Let's go with him. He's on essential casting. Like, I think Trump is trying to imitate Rodney Dangerfield as Hegseth is trying to imitate Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing. And it really, look, for devout Christians, how could it not feel like you're kind of under attack right now? Like the government's making a mockery of your faith, and it's just absolutely pathetic. But There is one man who's a devout Christian who's trying to make sense of it all, right? Because it turns out that Christianity has been kind of hijacked in America with a new religion that was just dubbed by Tucker Carlson. Take a look.
So what is the civic religion of the United States? What's the religion of the US government? What's the religion, honestly, of Donald Trump? It's not Christianity, clearly. It's Israelism. It's the defense of Israel. Now, how do you know that? Well, because the United States has set up as its chief foreign policy in the defense of Israel. That's one clue. There's that. But it's much deeper than that. Who are the main enemies, as identified by the President of the United States, of his government domestically? Who are his enemies? Who does he dislike? Who does he attack? Who does he go out of his way to undermine? Well, it's people who doubt Israel. People who stand in the way of the aims of the secular government of Israel. And that would include Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, and the Pope.
Yeah, 3 individuals that President Donald Trump has attacked, even though certainly in the case of Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, initially, they were huge supporters of Trump's. But there's one area where they disagree. And of course, that has to do with the unwavering support and devotion to a foreign country, and that's the country of Israel. So Tucker Carlson, Cenk, believes that we are under a new civic religion known as Israelism, and he provides examples to bolster the case he's making. But before we get to that, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, the one particular example is really shocking. So I really like that term because it's not Judaism. Because Judaism has a lot of wonderful qualities to it, like question the rabbi. Israel's like, never question us, right? Judaism is open, Israelism is closed. So it's a great way of putting it, and that is our politicians and our media pray to Israel. I mean, they worship and grovel at the feet of Israel. So it makes perfect sense. But what's interesting, Anna, is from Trump's point of view, with this new religion of Israelism, the Pope is not holy, but Israel is. So 55% of Catholics voted for Donald Trump in the last election. I suspect that's not going to be the case, but as you know, Anna, Israel made Joe Biden and Kamala Harris walk the plank and lose an election on purpose to serve them. Now I guess they're doing the same thing to the Republicans. You'll do exactly as you're ordered by your Lord and Savior, Benjamin Netanyahu.
So as I mentioned earlier, he did provide some pretty significant examples. And one of those examples happens to be the behavior of, well, a former colleague of Tucker's. And I just want to note that this former colleague also happens to be a practicing Catholic, allegedly. And I say allegedly because President Donald Trump has been pretty viciously going after Pope Leo, upsetting many Catholics. So let's see how Tucker's former colleague feels. Let's go to C6.
Probably the most mocked and yet clearest evangelist of this new faith is Israelism. And that would be someone, again, who's often made fun of for being dumb or he doesn't know what he's talking about. But it's sometimes people like that that give you the clearest picture of what the people in power really are talking about. And that person would be Sean Hannity. Watch Sean Hannity, cradle Catholic, describe the Pope. This is his reaction to the President of the United States attacking the Pope, head of the Catholic Church. And here's Sean Hannity's response as a Catholic to that. Watch.
He doesn't want any conflict anywhere, and he was talking about violence. And I'm like, have you even read the Bible? Have you read the conflicts, the wars that the Israeli people they were empowered by God to defeat their enemies?
Sean Hannity, a Catholic, decided to join Trump in attacking Pope Leo by questioning whether the Pope, the literal Pope, has ever read the Bible. Cenk, your thoughts?
It's the same Sean Hannity that said that John Kerry and Joe Biden should be kicked out of the Catholic Church because they disagreed with the Pope on abortion. But now when Sean Hannity's in favor of death and terrorism and wars, and the Pope says, no, we're for peace. Jesus was the Prince of Peace. Hannity goes, "Yes, shut up, Pope. What would you know about the Bible?" The Bible I know loves war, loves a different religion, and loves death and destruction. Okay, yeah. So I mean, giant hypocrites. But that's because Sean Hannity has never been a Catholic. Sean Hannity has always been a devout follower of Israelism. I've seen him disagree with the Pope many times because the popes are almost always against war. And every time Hannity wants war for Israel, he's like, "Shut up, Pope." I mean, what good Catholic? What good Catholic? Okay, but I have seen Sean Hannity agree with Israel literally 100% of the time. So really,
absolutely,
who's his Lord and Savior? Who's his Pope? His Pope is Netanyahu. His Pope is Israel. His religion is Israel. That's absolutely true. And it's not just Sean Hannity. It's almost everyone who works in mainstream media and almost every one of our politicians. I think, Anna, and we're gonna get to that one case that I think is so revealing, but I think Israel has given the order to Trump and the other politicians and the people in media, you're to attack the Catholic Church because the Catholic Church is saying that Israel is wrong for attacking its neighbors.
Yeah, so the believers of Israelism, I just want to be clear. I mean, Tucker called it a civil religion. It's a cult. It's a cult. Like, this is how people in a cult behave. So just be clear about that. People who have been bamboozled and sucked in by a cult turn on everything that they've known and loved in favor of the cult. So just keep that in mind. Now, later in his show, Tucker Carlson also talked about how those who refuse to adhere to Israelism end up becoming Trump's enemies, right? So I want to go to C5, and this will give you a sense of why Trump's coalition is dwindling.
So the president's problem with Pope Leo probably has nothing to do with Pope Leo's views on crime. Problem is that Pope Leo criticized this war with Iran, which was waged in partnership with Israel on behalf of Israel at the instigation of Israel. And he criticized that. That's his problem. So did Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie made the mistake of criticizing Israel's lobby in the United States, AIPAC. That was his sin. Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't say a lot about AIPAC, but wasn't enthusiastic about waging wars on Israel. She got attacked too. That's the only thing all three of them have in common. Thomas Massie is a pretty strict libertarian. Marjorie Taylor Greene is what we used to call a MAGA conservative. Why did they break? Over Israel. Over Israel's connection to Jeffrey Epstein and over Israel's push for the United States to join all kinds of foreign wars, particularly a war with Iran. That's why they broke. That's the thing that split their relationship and got the president attacking her and Thomas Massie and the Pope. So what does that tell you? It tells you what the religion is. The religion is Israelism.
So there you have yet another example. But Cenk, I'm curious which example you're referring to, because I've got one more, but I don't know if we have the same one.
So Trump administration has stripped a Catholic charity of $11 million. And that is a declaration of war. That's saying, okay, that's it. We're gonna attack the Catholic Church inside America in every way we can. Because we're gonna serve Israel. And if Israel says the Pope is wrong for being for peace, Jesus is wrong for being for peace, the Catholic Church is wrong for being for peace, then it is wrong because your God Almighty is Israel. And if you don't bow your head to Israel, we will smite you, as they have with Tucker and MTG and Tom Massie. Look, going after the left wing is easy. You have 1,000 excuses to go after the left wing. But they're going after their most ardent supporters, the people who made Trump president in the first place. Now, why would you go against Catholics when they voted for you in overwhelming numbers? Why would you go against your biggest supporters? Because you have been ordered by a higher power, and that's Israel. So that's a stone cold fact. So Biden was a bitch who worked for Israel. He's also a believer in Israelism. And Donald Trump is a bitch who works for Israel. But to them, That's very sacrilegious talk. They're like, well, you can't say that. And by the way, again and again and again, our mainstream media agrees with Trump and Biden. It is sacrilegious to say those things about beloved, sacred Israel. Well, Israel's not sacred. They're a foreign government who's been robbing us blind and destroys every American opposed to it, whether they're on the left or the right. And we're sick of getting destroyed in our own country. We need to fight back. And if you say to me, hey, Cenk, you're an atheist, which side are you on? Picking the Catholics here is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. You know why? Because they're actually Americans and they actually believe in their faith and they're real people with real convictions. And they're not a foreign government. I will never, ever bow my head to a foreign government. And you'd have to be insane to do that or bought by Israel like almost every one of our politicians and media.
Well, 40 states in our great nation have unfortunately passed legislation adopting the so-called IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. And there's a reason why that happens, especially when you consider how vague the definition is and the examples that are provided of what is considered anti-Semitic. In fact, Tucker delves into that in the next clip. But before we watch that, I want to remind you all that previously, progressive lawmaker Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez voted in favor of adopting this definition of anti-Semitism. Take a look.
The IHRA definition of anti-Semitism. Do you know what it is? It's on their website. It's worth looking at. Rhetorical meaning talking, words, speech, formerly protected no longer, rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Wait a second. So anti-Semitism is not necessarily hatred of Jews, and it can be expressed toward non-Jews. So you don't have to hate Jews, and you don't have to express or have these perceptions, these feelings toward Jews. You can be non-Jews too. What is this? Well, the people who wrote it at the IHRA probably anticipated this would be confusing to you. So they gave 11 examples of what anti-Semitism is, just so you know. Like, how do I know if I'm being anti-Semitic? Well, here are 11 examples. Of those 11 examples, and we did the math, 2/3 are criticism of Israel, the state of Israel.
There are a lot of Jews who are critical of Israel. Does that mean they're anti-Semites, Cenk?
Yeah, this is absurd. So why do you not protect Jews under definition of anti-Semitism? Well, because you have people like Bernie Sanders and Glenn Greenwald, Dave Smith, et cetera, and they're against Israel. So they don't care that they're Jewish. They don't care about Jews at all. They're like, if you're criticizing Israel, we're not gonna protect you, we're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna bash you and deride you all you want. But why include non-Jews in a definition of anti-Semitism? Because Lindsey Graham, Cory Booker, Joe Biden, Donald Trump are not Jewish, but they serve Israel. So you have to protect the Gentiles who also are part of the religion of Israelism. So those 11 things, I've read them, we've discussed them on the show before. It's preposterous. Any slight criticism of Israel is considered anti-Semitic and means that that's it. American law now says in nearly 40 states that if you criticize Israel in that way, you will lose government contracts, you will lose your livelihood, and your life will be destroyed for not bowing to the higher power of Israel. I mean, if this isn't sacrilegious, I don't know what is.
Well, there is definitely a concerted effort to increase the surveillance state and go after Americans for wrongthink. And nothing makes that clearer than the story that we have for you coming up next after the break. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
All right, let's go to YouTube members. DD Wood M says, can't wait to vote out Fetterman. Here, Sundog writes in, vote out AIPAC Dems, every single one of them, notanother.com, sign the pledge. Do your homework. Actually, you don't need much homework unless you're, representative or senator is named Bernie Sanders, Ro Khanna, Chris Van Hollen. I mean, to vote out all the incumbents, 94% of them take money from AIPAC or the Israeli lobby and serve them loyally. They're all devout followers of Israelism. Yaks 1777 says, Anna and Jen, keep your heads up, keep fighting and stand up for the truth. God praises people who speak the truth. Well, thank you, brother, appreciate it. David Todd says, Pete wears a tiny little shock collar. I think everyone knows what I mean. And BB holds the buzzer. BB to you, his Lord and Savior to Pete Hegseth. On Twitch, Baxter's Revenge says, cuck Gris. That sounds about right. They're all cucks to, remember when they kept giving standing ovations to Netanyahu earlier? Like, oh, our Lord and Savior is here, BB. And they all groveled like pathetic little dogs. Almost all the Democrats and 100% of the Republicans. Octo Squiddies, can someone explain to me how blocking the strait ourselves opens up the strait? Is this one where we destroy the village to save the village kind of thing? I'm sorry, I don't get the war games. It punishes Iran so they have an incentive to end the war quicker. But yes, it double blocks the strait. It makes the oil problem worse, but the stock market is the R word, so they don't understand anything. Anyway, Progressive Entropy says, TYT, above all other news, love you all. Love you back. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Everybody hit the little red bell underneath the video. Just helps you keep track of the show. Check out our podcasting network if you can. Check out our 24-hour channels on Amazon Prime, YouTube TV, Roku, Samsung, LG. All right, Anna, what's next?
We got to talk about the surveillance state, something that many Americans are finally waking up to because our own government would like to spy on us indiscriminately. And I want to tell you why.
Events we're watching now that are very confusing. And those would include the president advocating for re-upping FISA. Now, FISA, without getting too boring about it, is the law which has to be voted on periodically by Congress that allows the US government to spy on Americans, to spy on them. Now, the whole point of it is supposed to be to spy on foreigners who are threatening us, but the nature of the technology being what it is, there are cases where we pick up communications from Americans, and in order to make that legal, we need this thing called FISA.
Tucker Carlson has become a lot more outspoken in regard to what President Trump is up to and how his actions hurt the American people. In this case, it has to do with mass surveillance of American citizens and allowing our government to spy on us without ever having to obtain a warrant. So before we get into Tucker's comments about Trump and the little flip-flop that he engaged in when previously he spoke out against FISA, Cenk, I'm curious what your 2 cents are.
Yeah, 2 points I want to make here after you give us the facts, which is difference between Fox News Tucker Carlson and online Tucker Carlson and why that is. And then I want to talk about how Barack Obama and Donald Trump have the same exact policy. And I don't know if you guys heard that in mainstream media. Have people clarified that for you? And we'll tell you why they're both dead wrong. Go ahead, Anna.
So Glenn Greenwald did a fantastic write-up about FISA, including providing historical context in his Substack. So I highly recommend you read the entire piece. However, I'll give you some excerpts that I think are critical in understanding what FISA is. Now, despite running in 2024 by vowing to kill FISA, based on his quite valid claim that spying powers had been abused against him, meaning Trump, for political ends in the 2016 presidential campaign, Trump on Monday demanded that FISA be fully renewed yet again with no reforms, safeguards, or limits of any kind. And just to give you a sense of how nefarious FISA really is, there's a particular section you should know about. Section 702 of FISA grants the NSA, the National Security Agency, the power to spy on certain communications of American citizens without a warrant. So let's just briefly gloss over the history. And this really is glossing over the history, but it's important for you to know at least the biggest details, most important details here. Because after 9/11, the Bush administration ordered the NSA to spy on the communications of American citizens without warrants for the first time ever. This was the first time. And you have to understand the mindset of the American people at the time. We had just suffered the absolute worst terror attack on US soil. Thousands of Americans were killed. The World Trade Center was attacked. Towers come tumbling down. I mean, people are terrified. And usually nefarious governments like to tap into that fear in order to increase their own power. And that's what happened here. So the Bush administration, not only did they go with the Patriot Act, but they also expanded the surveillance powers that the government has on American citizens. So how is the Bush administration allowed to get away with this? Because it's unconstitutional. It flies in the face of unreasonable searches and seizures. Well, they claimed that the NSA would just stop listening to calls or reading messages if they were spying on a foreign national, but that person was conversing with an American citizen. So if they're, let's say, having, a regular conversation, phone sex, for instance, which happened in some cases, which the Bush administration was listening to, like, that's wrong. You're not supposed to do it. But they did break that one rule of if it's an American citizen involved, like, don't listen anymore, right? So Bush Cheney, in secret and in violation of the clear terms of the law, ordered the NSA to keep listening and keep reading, even if they knew they were spying on Americans without warrants. Warrantless eavesdropping on Americans is blatantly illegal and unconstitutional. A core purpose of the Fourth Amendment is to require warrants before the government can spy on American citizens. So rather than punish those who spied on Americans with no warrants, writes Glenn Greenwald, Congress instead acted to retroactively legalize this warrantless domestic spying in 2008 by enacting Section 702 of the FISA Amendments Act. And so with that in mind, consider the fact that Trump is now demanding that Congress renew it with no reforms whatsoever. And by the way, you need to renew it every 4 years, so it's up for renewal as we speak. Now, I want to go to one more video from Tucker Carlson to really drive home how nefarious this really is and how we have suffered as a result of this in the past.
The president himself was a victim of the misuse of these laws in his first term. They were used against him in what became a kind of bureaucratic attempted coup against him that we call Russiagate. And so the president was personally very sensitive on this question. He'd been the victim of the misuse of these laws. And so he said many times, I'm not for that. I don't think Americans should be spied on by their own government. I don't think you pay your taxes, today's tax day, by the way, in order to be spied on by your government when you've done nothing wrong. All of a sudden, the president is advocating for this new law. He wants the Congress to allow the US government to spy on Americans. Why could that possibly be? Well, there are a couple of clues. One comes from the documents unearthed and made public, God bless him, by Ed Snowden some years ago that showed that NSA, the National Security Agency, the largest of all of our spy agencies, turned over raw data to, can you guess? Oh, the Israeli government that included private information about Americans. So they sweep up all this information, the comms, the communications of American citizens, and they just turn it all over without taking private information about Americans, our citizens. They turn it over to a foreign government and its intel service.
So there you have it. Our private information collected through FISA. That's what allowed for the government to spy on us and collect all this personal data on us. And then it was weirdly sent to the Israelis. I wonder why that happened, Cenk. So strange, so strange. Now, right now, there is a pretty significant campaign to destroy the lives of any American who dare question the US-Israeli alliance, which has been incredibly detrimental to our country. And so, You have the Ellisons bragging about surveilling Americans to make sure that everyone's on their best behavior. Larry Ellison literally said that on the record. And is it because they want to fight crime and they want to make sure that we're not victims of terrorism? Or is it that they want to punish Americans who aren't signing on to the Zionist program?
Yeah. So it's another story that's very telling of our system, again, in politics and in media. So collecting our private information for the US government to use is already abominable and obviously unconstitutional. But then to give it over to Israel, so what? Well, what are they gonna do with it? Let me guess, blackmail. Of course. No, you're not allowed to say it. You're not allowed to, because Israel is sacred to all the people in power in this country. Now let's, when I say all, do I mean all? Absolutely. So Barack Obama ran against George Bush's warrantless wiretapping program, right? And he said, well, I'm not gonna do that. I can't believe he spied in on innocent Americans. Barack Obama, obviously a giant liar. He got into office and they actually started to vote on it. And it looked like it was gonna pass. Hey, you can't do this warrantless wiretapping. Obama calls Pelosi and says, hey, remember, I'm a huge liar and I never meant anything I said in the campaign. So I want you to make sure that we continue the wiretapping. Vote yes on FISA. And Pelosi worked the lines and did what she does and made sure there was enough Democratic votes to continue this hideous, unconstitutional program. By the way, mainstream media then lauded Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi maintains FISA. Great job by the master legislator. They all pretended they were against this. Pelosi did, Obama did, Trump did. No matter who you vote for, you always get Israel. And then when you say that to the press, they're like, oh, how dare you? Okay, yeah. Spare me your BS. Now that brings me back to Fox News version of Tucker Carlson versus online media version of Tucker Carlson. So when he was on Fox News, do you remember the stories he used to do? He didn't do any substantive stories like this on FISA or wars. If he did, he was in the beginning in favor of the Iraq War, etc. That was before he was on Fox News. He would do stories about M&Ms. You remember that? And how they were gonna make you drink Starbucks coffee every day if the Democrats won.
Embarrassing.
No, you know why? Because mainstream media doesn't want you talking about substance. That would be greatly damaging to their beloved Israel, but also all of their donors, to the defense industry, the oil industry, etc. So they make you do culture wars. So everyone on Fox News is doing culture wars. Why? Because that divides us. Now Tucker's freed of the chains of mainstream media, and now all of a sudden he's doing substance, and he's doing really good stories. And anyone who comes to the right side on any given issue, I'm very happy to have them there, okay? So on these issues, he's doing wonderful, correct stories about, yeah, it is abuse of American citizens' rights to invade their privacy like this. It's deeply unconstitutional, and both parties do it. You know who's been saying that for the last 15, 20 years? We have. All of us on the left have. So it's good to have our brothers and sisters on the right wing join us in that fight against the establishment that is evil and anti-American and serves a different country.
Ricky Clay in our members section makes a pretty devastating point that I want to end the segment on. He says, they want to spy on us, but they're protecting pedophiles. Pretty devastating and true.
Yeah,
pretty devastating and true.
So that's such a great point. I'm glad you read that from our members. I love doing the show with members. You guys are so smart and 1,000 times better than any so-called reporter. Okay, guys, think about it. They have the video, very, very, very likely the videos of Epstein, and that they don't share. That they say, no. All those guys were for Israel. Shush. Every deal that Epstein did was for Israel. Shush. But you, if you're gonna oppose Israel, you're an average American, spy on him. Get information on him. We need that information. So how much did they use from the Epstein blackmail? But oh no, beloved Israel would never use blackmail. Come on, man, get the F out of here. This country has been controlling, this tiny little country. Do you know what the closest country to Israel is in population? I'm not joking, it's Papua New Guinea. Imagine if we were spying on Americans for Papua New Guinea. Imagine if we invaded like half of the Pacific for Papua New Guinea and we spent $8 trillion on those wars.
And Papua New Guinea is like, unlike Israel, provides something critical and vital, coffee. Okay, like, so I mean, what do we get from Israel? Intel that's always inaccurate and meant to goad us into fighting their wars? No, thank you. No, thank you. Anyway, we got to take our last break, Cenk. So let's do that. And when we come back, let's have a little bit of fun, okay? Because out of all the people that are worthy of attack, verbally, of course, Ben Shapiro has chosen to go after Theo Vaughn. We'll be right back.
They want to make you drink Starbucks every day from now until forever.
True. Remember, Mondays are coming up on next Monday. You guys are going to get to call in. It's going to be fun. Don Dada Dragon says, the finder of lost children. Pete knows a little something about that. 168 schoolgirls. No, don't even do that. That's ouch, ouch. Yeah, Pete Hegseth, murderer of children, telling us about how we should listen to the prophet Samuel Jackson. What a blithering idiot. Winston Smith says, you don't know what a candidate's true ethics are until they're elected. See Fetterman in cinema. I hear you, brother, I hear you. But the next person that betrays us is gonna pay a significant political price. Eclectic writes in, it would be bad enough if the unitary executive meant that Trump gets to decide everything. Instead, we have a unitary executive where Israel gets the final say on everything. Yeah, obviously. Okay, Asmos Prophet says, if the stock market believes Trump is being honest, the stock market is stupid. Well, of course the stock market's stupid. Why do you think there's those giant crashes in 2000, 2008? They're like, buy. Oh no, it was a house of cards. I want my bonus. Eddie Jameson says the Iranians are 100 times smarter than us. I'm so embarrassed to be an American right now. They're running circles around the Trump regime strategically. Yeah, but it's not that we're stupid. It's that we have to follow orders of Israel no matter how much it hurts us. Velvet X here says, New York voter here can't wait to vote Gillibrand and Schumer out, trying to spread the word as much as possible. Our local representative is also useless. He's got 3 people primarying him, can't wait for that one either. Yeah, they're all useless. Richie Torres is in New York and he serves Israel loyally. All right, I'm out of time, we'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, the online news network. One quick super chat. Abdullah Siraj asked, any news on Tom Artyom Alexandrovich? No, he's an Israeli. He's above the law. Laws do not apply to Israelis in America. They could just go to Israel. We'll let them go. We won't ask for their return. You could do almost anything and just run to Israel, and our government won't even ask for you to come back. That's how you know you're ruled among the 1,000 other facts. Okay, Anna, what's next?
Well, apparently Ben Shapiro's latest target is Theo Vaughn, a comedian who, seems to have a problem with innocent people getting slaughtered. So let's hear Shapiro out.
Listen, maybe the vice president thinks he has to kiss Theo Vaughn's half in order to keep him in the coalition, and that's his political calculation. I think it's a bad political calculation.
Ben Shapiro repeatedly called the comedian Theo Vaughn the R word on his program yesterday. And you won't be surprised to find out that just a few weeks ago, Vaughn went viral for being critical of Israel. So I think it's fair to connect the two incidents. Now, before I give you the details, Cenk, your 2 cents.
What I found to be interesting is we all criticize politicians. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you should if you're a part of media. But the way that he was scolding JD Vance, and almost like warning him, if you know what's good for you, you won't support Theo Vaughn or Tucker Carlson. You'll only support pro-Israeli shows. I mean, the arrogance. But to be fair to Ben Shapiro, he might know things we don't know about how politicians in America do not have a choice. They must bow their heads to Israel. And it's driving him crazy that other people in media no longer are. Tell us about it, Anna.
So before I get to Ben Shapiro's statements, I think it's important for you to know the context and what Theo Von had to say about, Israel and Israeli terrorists. So let's take a quick look at that first.
What do you think is going to happen? You think we're going to be okay?
I hope so. Of course. I don't know.
Do you think about it?
I'm confused. I can't believe we went to this war. When we started bombing Iran, I was like, this can't be true.
And what about Lebanon now?
I know. Israel's invaded Lebanon. Yeah.
And it's like, just stop. Like, what do you need?
Well, they're trying to, supposedly, they're trying to stop the terrorists.
Yeah, that's crazy, though, if you're the terrorist. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to stop them, stand in front of the mirror and start there.
I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Where is the lie? And rather than address what Theo Von had to say there, Ben Shapiro went out of his way to attack anyone who dare say a favorable word about Theo Von. So apparently Vice President JD Vance recently stated that he enjoys Theo Von's podcast. And Ben Shapiro was not happy about that. That's very bad. So let's hear more of Shapiro's thoughts alongside a piece of the viral clip that we mentioned earlier.
Theo Von is a low IQ conspiracist. He has himself routinely propped up Candace Owens. Now, of course, Theo Von's half-hearted conspiracism doesn't end there. Of course, here he was recently with Joe Rogan spewing out mind vomit.
People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting politicians slurp on kids. All of our money goes to Israel and they're using it to genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are talking about bull. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
We got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us. Just chill out.
I'm here.
And Theo Von is basically just a Bernie Sanders leftist who does not like the censorious impulses of the left and engages in all the same conspiracy theories and, of course, is good friends with Candace Owens and all of the rest of it. And that's the guy that the vice president thinks that everybody should listen to.
Ben, what are you smoking? Theo Von is a Bernie Sanders leftist and is good friends with Candace Owens. No, homeboy thinks we're all stupid. It's amazing. It really is amazing. Cenk.
Yeah.
And by the way, just to respond to what Rogan said at the tail end of the Theo clip, no, Theo Von is not crazy. He's not losing his mind. It's not anything that he's taking. He's actually the most sober-minded person on the show during that exchange. Just keeping it real.
Yeah, so no, Ben Shapiro doesn't think we're stupid. He thinks his audience is stupid.
True.
And yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't know why Rogan said that. Maybe because the line about Satan, I'm not a religious person, so I don't get into that Satan stuff. But outside of that, Theo Von was spitting bars there. He was 100% accurate. And so, look, Israel, the gig is up, man. Everybody sees you. I know you think you're hiding behind Jake Tapper and Trump and Obama and all those guys. No, you can't hide behind their skirts. We see you, man. You are the terrorist. It's so obvious. So you told me terrorism is killing innocent civilians, and Israel has the worst civilian kill ratio of any terrorist group in the world, 83%. They kill 100 times the number of civilians that Hamas did. So what's this absurd standard? No, they're obvious. If terrorism means anything at all, and it's the definition we've been using, then Israel is the biggest terrorist organization in the world. That's an empirical fact. Okay, so now notice the two tricks that Shapiro is doing. Same old tired Israeli tricks, smear by proxy. Theo Von likes Candace Owens, JD Vance likes Theo Von, so JD Vance is unacceptable because of the Theo Von and the Candace Owens, and that's why they do this thing. And that's why they're doing it with Hassan as well. Oh, Hassan Piker said something wrong, so then he's with Abdul Saeed and Al Saeed in Michigan, and then he's with that and he's with that. So you have to cancel any critic of Israel on the right or the left because we're playing 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with Israel's critics. By the way, Abdul Al Saeed, after campaigning with Hassan Piker, has now taken the lead in Michigan. So hashtag suck it, okay? The more people realize you're against Israel, the higher your vote count goes up. So keep telling everybody, Ben, you're doing us a tremendous favor. Last thing for now is that's the other thing, conspiracy theories. So if you don't listen to whatever the US government and Israeli government, identical, say, their propaganda, you're a conspiracy theorist. I mean, like, are you thinking that Israel isn't doing self-defense? I mean, they had to take 53% of Gaza because they're our special ally and they have a right to exist. That's since they have a right to exist, they had to take southern Lebanon. See, only morons that work in national media or corrupt people that are our politicians would believe anything that stupid. But Ben Shapiro goes, oh, those are the conspiracy theories. And you shouldn't believe any conspiracy theories. The jig is up, man. The gig, everything is up, okay? Like, we see all of your stupid tricks. So you could have Jake Tapper repeat it on CNN as well. It's not gonna make any goddamn difference. We see you. Go ahead, Ed.
Now, Shapiro wasn't done. He wanted to chastise JD Vance over a different association that Vance has, and you're about to hear about it in this next clip. Take a look.
Listen, maybe the vice president thinks he has to kiss Theo Vaughn's in order to keep him in the coalition, and that's his political calculation. I think it's a bad political calculation. There's no politician who is fully capable of just picking up a prior president's coalition and then just carrying it forward. It didn't work for Hillary Clinton with Barack Obama. It's not going to work for JD Vance with Donald Trump. Just because Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan back Trump doesn't mean that they're going to get behind Donald Trump. They're going to get behind JD Vance. The reality is that the vice president's current coalitional strategy, I think, is deeply flawed. It is hard for me to see how he doesn't shrink President Trump's coalition across the board. But that's a political calculation. Maybe his is better than mine. It is certainly not a moral calculation. And the same is true of the vice president's consistent defense of Tucker's disgusting demoralization up, which has been in continuous operation for years at this point. You have to feel a little bit bad for Vice President Vance. Tucker helped him become vice president. The VP appreciates it, as he should. But now, because of his connections to Tucker or his desire to maintain Trump's coalition, a coalition that is broad and complex, he's been relegated to placating the crazies, assuming he doesn't actually agree with them.
Wait, Tucker Carlson is part of the crazies? Tucker Carlson's on a generational run right now because he's speaking truth. He's informing people about what's really going on with our government. And man, does Ben Shapiro hate it. Can we please get back to talking about the green M&M and how they made her more sporty and less sexy? That's the real story we should be focusing on, Cenk.
Yeah. So did you hear what he said? He said that Vance should abandon Trump's coalition that led to the victory.
Yes.
Because only going towards Israel first will help you win an election? But wait a minute, the Israel First shows like Shapiro's and Levin's are down to like single-digit viewers. Nobody's watching them anymore. Tucker and Megyn Kelly are piling up millions and millions of views, and they're both now against Israel. So what kind of
free market?
Yeah, but what kind of political calculation is that? No, he's not asking for the correct political calculation. He's telling JD Vance, you better watch yourself. Remember, we're in charge. It doesn't matter how popular Theo Vaughn or Tucker Carlson is. It doesn't matter how unpopular we are. We're in charge, JD, and you'll do as you're told. He's basically telling him, commit political hara-kiri on behalf of Israel. And so,
and you know,
yeah.
Sorry, Cenk. And you know what's so crazy? I know that there's this like very strong effort to paint JD Vance as a dove, as someone who would have handled all this foreign policy so differently. But there's literally no indication of that, none. Okay, there was the New York Times article that was published recently showing that the Israelis had hoodwinked Trump into entering this war against Iran. And someone from the administration leaked the information to Maggie Haberman over at the New York Times. And the only person who came out looking kind of good in that article was JD Vance, who purportedly pushed back against invading Iran or starting a war with Iran. Now, I suspect, this is my speculation, that Vance was the one who leaked it because he wants to paint himself as a dove. But there is no indication that he is a dove. He's never pushed back against Trump's foreign policy. In every public appearance, he's only doubled down or supported Trump's foreign policy. But that doesn't matter. It's still not good enough for Ben Shapiro, who, if he were smart, would understand that much like Donald Trump, JD Vance is bought and can be bought further. Nonetheless, this is what you'll hear from Ben Shapiro.
Yeah. So Maggie Haberman also had to clarify, yes, in an earlier New York Times story, they did report that actually JD Vance said to not do limited strikes, but go in big. Oops. Now, last thing I was gonna say earlier, Anna, is 57% of Republicans under the age of 50 have a negative view of Israel. And obviously by the next election, that'll be a bigger number, not just because of the trend that's happening, but because those folks are gonna get older, and some of the older folks that watch Fox News are not gonna be around in the next election. So even so, if it just held steady right now, it'd be political suicide to go against 57% of your voters under the age of 50. And now for men under the age of 50, for the whole country, not just Republicans, Israel is at a negative 47% approval. Negative 47, but Shapiro says walk the plank. Okay, and to be fair, Israel did get Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to walk the plank for them, and now and now Trump is walking the plank for them, and they're demanding that JD Vance also walk the plank. Kill off your own career to serve beloved sacred Israel.
And again, Jake, no matter how much JD Vance goes along with this devastating foreign policy, and it's not only devastating for the human lives that are lost, it's devastating for JD Vance's political future. But nonetheless, he goes along with it, and it's still not enough for Ben Shapiro, because a little later, Shapiro accused Vance of being disloyal to Trump's foreign policy. Take a look.
I recognize that a lot of young voters don't love the policy that we have in the Middle East. Okay, I understand that. I also know that we've secured the border. We've lowered housing prices now for 8 months in a row, and there's going to be more to come beyond that. We've made America energy dominant, which has lowered electricity costs and things like that. We've made it so that we have the lowest murder rate in 127 years. Don't get disengaged because you disagree with the administration on one topic. Get more involved. Make your voice heard even more. That's how we ultimately take the country back.
Back from home. So you disagree on Iran with the administration. That's when you have to sound off and take the country back. Back from whom? The current president is Donald Trump. The vice president is the guy talking. If we're taking the country back from someone else, then what are we talking about?
Israel. We're talking about Israel. I don't know if JD Vance is talking about Israel, but it appears that everyone is under the impression that JD Vance is talking about Israel. I don't believe him. I don't believe that he actually means it. But yeah, we need to take our country back from Israel, Ben. We live in the United States of America, not Israel. You whine about every dollar our government spends on the American people. Oh, we have so much debt. While you cheerlead endless military aid to the country you actually give a damn about. And yeah, that's Israel.
Yeah.
Back to you, Jake.
Yeah, so they've set up all these like talking points and tropes and landmines to protect Israel all over media, right? So they say, well, if you say that Israel controls America because they have given money to 94% of our Congress, they're like, oh, that's a trope. You're saying Jews, well, I didn't say Jews control Congress. Bernie Sanders just introduced the legislation to end sending more bombs and money to Israel. You said it, I didn't say it. And then I'm saying Israel, a foreign country, their lobby gave to Congress and they control them. That's obvious, it's logical. Same thing with Big Pharma and all the other lobbies. And they go, nope, you're not allowed to say it. See, those days of you're not allowed to say it, that the Jake Tappers, the Gestapo on television used to do in the Dana bashes. For example, is our government occupied? Of course it's occupied, but it's again, not just occupied by Israel. Big Pharma normally spends even more. It's obviously occupied by the big drug companies who are robbing us blind. They've stolen probably in the order of trillions from us now, and so is Israel. $8 trillion on the global war on Israel's neighbors, right? But if you go to actually free your country from all of the lobbyists, irrespective of religion or nationhood, most of the lobbyists are corporate lobbyists. The Dana Bash and Jake Tapper and everybody on cable news will come out, not just Fox News, CNN, New York Times, Washington Post will come out and go, anti-Semite, Nazi, because they say if you say that Israel's occupying our government, that's a Nazi talking. What? You just made that up. You just made it up. So no, we don't give a flying F anymore about all of your stupid Israeli propaganda. This country is obviously controlled by all the lobbyists, including the Israeli lobby, and our politicians work for them like dogs. They've robbed us over $320 billion, let alone the $8 trillion. We keep borrowing more money from China. Our kids and our grandkids have to pay interest on that money, and we hand it over to Israel. And now we're going to murder Iranians and Lebanese people because Israel wants more land and more territory. And they say we have to support their fascism. No, we don't. They're a disgusting foreign government that is acting in a terroristic, fascistic way. And America doesn't do fascism. We fight fascism. So no thank you. Please get the F out of our country. And if you're offended by that, good. I'm so glad you're offended. I want to deeply offend everyone who says that America must bow and kneel to Israel. God, I hope you're offended. I hope you're 1,000 times more offended than you have ever been. I am not going to bow, and America's not going to bow to Israel. We're sick of our disgusting politicians serving you and not us. I hope they all get wiped out politically. All of them. All of the corrupt sons of bitches, and I hope all of mainstream media goes up in flames. They're not objective, and I hope they're all bankrupt. They're not objective at all. The idea that they're objective is the biggest lie of all. They're deeply corrupt and biased and serve a different government and serve all the lobbies. Young Turks. All right, guys, welcome to the revolution. So this is the show where we try to make a difference and unite folks to make that difference. So I'm gonna need your help here. We're also you're basically asking for you guys to crowdsource the revolution. So earlier in today's programming on the Young Turks, we told you about the 7 betrayers, the 7 Democrats who betrayed 80% of their voters and voted to give Israel 12,000 bombs and armed bulldozers to murder more Palestinian, Lebanese, and Persians. And so that's Chris Coons, Richard Blumenthal, Chuck Schumer, John Fetterman, Catherine Cortez Masto, Jackie Rosen, and Kirsten Gillibrand. Now, I could do this on my own, but I don't want to. I want to do it with you guys. I want you to look up, so you see when their elections are up, right? I want you to look up to see if Chris Coons, for example, has a primary opponent and when that primary is, and let us know, and maybe we can go help that brother, right? And I want to find out who the potential primary opponents are, if any, of the rest. So the 2031 Rosen and Gillibrand are too far out, right? But Chuck Schumer, obviously AOC could be a competitor there. I don't know if anyone else has even discussed it. Blumenthal and Fetterman as well. So we're gonna do the show here. I'm gonna do other elements for you guys. I got an interview coming up. But I want you to write in if you've found that information, and then we'll try to broadcast it out there and try to help anyone trying to defeat these Democrats who have raised their hand and say, I will never vote for Democratic voters. I'll only vote for beloved Israel. That's what they said. They betrayed 80% of their voters, 80%, in order to serve their donors. And each one of them has taken millions of dollars from the Israeli lobby. And we're not like the morons in mainstream media. We know that means they were legally bribed by Israel to serve Israel, and they have loyally served Israel instead of their voters. So we're looking to politically destroy them. It would be an absolute outrage if any of them got reelected. In Delaware is a deep blue state. Why in God's green earth would you vote for a conservative like Chris Coons? Chris Coons is one of the most conservative Democrats in the country. It's not like he's in a conservative state. He voted to make sure that we didn't get a higher minimum wage. Made sure your wages are lower, so you work for corporations and only for corporations who coincidentally are also given millions of dollars. It's not a coincidence. Chris Coons is a prostitute who works for the donor class, and you should definitely make sure that he loses in Delaware. We'll see if we have enough time in terms of being able to help a campaign against them, but you guys will tell me about that in a minute. Now, there's one person that could make a difference in these elections, and she has chosen to go in a curious route. So let me tell you about that story. Today, AOC was asked by Dropsite News about whether she has endorsed Shoykat Chakrabarti yet. Shoykat was her former chief of staff and her campaign manager when she pulled off the miraculous victory against Joe Crowley. Shoykat was also the head of the Justice Democrats. He also just knocked out Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi retired when Shoykat was running against him. And then a bunch of other establishment Democrats jumped in. And in fact, his main opponent, Scott Wiener, is one of the most pro-Israel legislators in all of California. He has pushed for legislation that would say that you cannot criticize Israel in our schools. And if you do, there will be consequences. He has pushed for firing people who lead universities if they don't ban the boycott and divestment and sanction movement on college campuses, saying if you don't take Americans' rights away so that they serve Israel loyally, that he's gonna get you fired. So it's not like this is a hard question as to who progressives should support, who populists should support, who any right-minded Democrat should support. Obviously, Shoykat, but for us, that's relatively easy. For AOC, that has to be the simplest question in the world. Here's the person who helped get you into Congress and was your chief of staff. So this one's gonna be super easy for her to answer. Let's watch.
Shoykat, obviously your chief of staff, former chief of staff is running in San Francisco. That primary is in June. Obviously, you're not gonna have a reporter tell you to endorse, but like, is that something are you at least monitoring the race, looking at it? I mean, what's your stance on Shoykat? Because like, you have a close relationship.
I think for me overall, it's more about, I'm trying to think about the role that I am trying to play more broadly in these things. You know, we've got 435 seats in Congress, right? And there is this kind of moment where it's like when, and not just with this race, but with any race, once you go in, then it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this one? And I'm one person with, a pretty amazing crack, but also lean team. And so we're thinking about kind of like how much of myself I'm pouring into this and how much of myself we want to make sure that we're, pouring into the task at hand. Like, what we've got going on here. So, but I think that what I will say is that I think that the primary environment that we're seeing is really great. I think that progressives have already notched some really impressive victories this early into the primary season. And we've got another, 6 or 7 months of it to go. And I'm looking forward to having a lot of new colleagues here in November that we can, it's been a lonely, really lonely road for the first 8 years. And I'm really hoping that it'll be a little less lonely in November.
My boss has a book about that.
What was that? That was a Kamala Harris-like word salad. Okay, I'm going to try to decipher it. This is about the role I'm trying to play more broadly. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. How much, she said, this is the moment, okay, this is the moment to decide. Yeah, I agree. Shortcut, she said, oh, we got like another 6 months here. No. Shortcut's in a primary, that's on June 2nd. So that's, a little over a month away. We don't have a lot of time. What are you waiting for? She said, okay, I have a crack team. Well, maybe that's the one. Look, I'm not insulting her team. I'm not even insulting her. I just don't understand. Like, does your crack team have to work for 6-8 months to endorse your former chief of staff? Don't you know who your former chief of staff is? You got to do a lot of research about that? She said, oh, there's 435 seats. Yeah, but we're not asking about 434 other seats. We're asking about your former chief of staff and the campaign manager that got, look, Shortcut didn't unilaterally get her that position. I've said this a million times. AOC was brilliant in that campaign. She did an amazing job. She deserves a world of credit for winning that race. But Shortcut also deserves credit. And I mean, if you don't know, Shortcut was running JD. He went all in and went on AOC's campaign, was absolutely pivotal in getting her a win. Now, by the way, guys, I want you to understand something. Our PAC, Rebellion PAC, our meaning the one I'm running with Cara Eastman, has endorsed Shortcut, but he's not gonna be happy about this segment. He doesn't want me talking about this, but sad day for him. This is my show and I'll do whatever I want, okay? So he's running for office. He's a really nice, good guy, like way nicer than me. And he's trying to get along with everyone. And of course he'd like everybody's endorsement. He doesn't want to antagonize anybody. But I don't mind antagonizing people because I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Why does it take a year for you to figure out if you should endorse your chief of staff? That's not one of 435. Does loyalty mean anything? Is that like an outdated, dirty word or something? For me, it does mean something. So, and then I guess out of all of that, the thing that bothered me the most is when she said, I have to decide how much of myself I'm pouring into this. Oh, I'm sorry. Are we inconveniencing you? I know how much of himself Shortcut poured into your campaign, 100%. And I think it made all the difference. And a lot of people think it made all the difference. But now when he needs the help, well, how much of herself is she gonna pour into him? This looks terrible, man. So, all right, look. At the end of the day, policy and getting it passed is the only thing that matters, eyes on the prize. So I'm not against AOC. AOC is on our side on the policies way more than the average person in Congress. She has these character traits that are bizarre, inexplicable. And she apparently doesn't think loyalty is like anything that matters at all. She doesn't think it's a value. I can't believe she hasn't endorsed him yet. Sorry, Shortcut, sorry. He's a good guy. He doesn't want anybody saying this, but this is insane. It isn't about Shortcut. It's about what are we doing as a movement? You know what Justice Democrats were supposed to do when they went in? We had a whole plan. The plan was that once you get in, you open the gates and that you support other people running against incumbents. Because this wasn't about your career, It was about getting more progressives into Congress because the establishment is never going to do what we want. So we have to defeat the establishment. They got in and they're like, wow, 435 races this moment, blah, 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 blah. And where is the fiery support for the people behind you? You're supposed to put up a ladder so they could climb up, not take the ladder away, or not take 6 months to decide if you should endorse one of the principal architects of the progressive movement. That is not a complicated question at all. Okay, last thing, guys. Look, to the point of me not being against AOC at all. What are you doing? The New York Senate seat is right there. Just take it. Chuck Schumer voted to give Israel more bombs today. Chuck Schumer is like 900 years old. Always votes for the corporate lobby. Always votes for Israel. Always votes against Democrats. AOC would win that New York Senate seat in a cakewalk. Endorse Shortcut, then endorse yourself and run against Schumer. Are you so worried about angering the establishment? Are you still looking for credit from them? That you're not going to do something pivotal for the movement? Because this New York Senate seat not only would get rid of a so-called leader that has been leading us in the wrong direction for decades, that would be a huge win in and of itself if anyone did it. But then it puts one of the more progressive members of Congress into the Senate. It's a double win, and it helps her career. Where's the question? For God's sake, do things that are really simple. We're not against you. We just want you to do the things that you said you'd do. It's not too much of an ask. And if you hate me for saying it, good, no problem at all. Because for me, this isn't about ego. You can hate me and 1,000 other people can hate me. But we've got to get wins. And if you don't have people like Shortcut inside Congress, and if you don't have people like AOC inside the Senate, we're never gonna have enough people and enough power to get our policies passed. And that's the point, is the policies affect Americans, voters, the average guy out there. And that's who we're all supposed to serve, not ourselves. Okay, I'll come back to your comments on Coons and others, but let me do the interview that I promised you guys. All right, joining us now is Tom Joseph, founder of America's Main Street Party. Tom, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. So Tom, tell us what America's Main Street Party is.
Well, it's not what you would typically think of as a political party. I like to describe it as a tech company wrapped inside a political party. It's an app aiming to disrupt the system.
So tell me how, look, that's what this show's about. So tell me how you're aiming to disrupt the system.
Well, one of the things, I determined that to relaunch a third party, an ideological third party, I think is a losing idea. And the whole aspect of uncompetitive gerrymandered districts were something that always fascinated me as a business person as to why nobody could figure out how to penetrate them. And to make a long story short, I found a loophole that allows us to repurpose the political committee system in a way that produces a free and equal nominating process, a multi-round competition that's moneyless, that would elevate a candidate that would win in a general election over an incumbent Republican, Democrat, or incumbent Republican or Democrat in gerrymandered districts. And it really gets down to math and statistics and a bell curve. In that if money distorts representation, the absence of money in a nominating process should return a candidate at the center of that bell curve, the more popular candidate. And that candidate should win in the general election.
So Tom, you're preaching to the choir here. I can't wait to get money out of politics. It's the cancer that has destroyed our democracy. So, but how do you get it out?
Well, and through an app and a portal. I mean, think about this. We don't do this anywhere else. And this whole thing kind of started as I made a joke that we did a better job of picking the next American Idol than the next representative Congress. And it just made me think about, is there a way to kind of create an insulated contest that would result the best singer, the best athlete, the best politician? And why not? Absolutely. I mean, the systems have been rigged to reelect really terrible representatives and people that aren't working for the people, they're working for big money. And the only way you can change that is to put a system in place where people's votes actually matter. And so if you have a multi-round competition, if you look at way voting systems can work to elevate the true voice of the district, you can do this. And because I found a way to do it that requires no news laws, there's really no way to stop it.
Okay, but Tom, help me out. So give me more on it. Give me the details. So you say you've got the system. What is that system?
It's an app. I mean, to be fair, it's hard to envision it until you see it. But we do have a prototype, video prototype on the website. We will soon have a beta release of the app. But it's a competition. It's a place where anybody could enter the contest for free. A portal where they can put their campaign, their slogans, their buttons, their policy positions, a public service announcement. But the idea is that every potential nominee running in this contest would have an equal number of characters or pixels or time on a video. It would be an equal platform where they all could have their campaigns there, and a way too for the constituents to sort through the nominees and endorse those in mass that share their values. I'm working with college students to develop this. One of the ideas they came up with, this idea of a issue indicator, where the candidates to get into the contest would have to weigh in on 7 positions that would be coming before Congress, and the constituents get to match up against those and basically approval vote those into a top 20, then a top 10, and then a top 4, and then thinking about doing like a virtual town hall and a way to determine a top 2 and then have a final debate. But something that resembles more like the Olympics and less like this mess that we have now.
So people at least get to sample and basically shop for politicians there. They get to see, okay, what are their views on the 7 policy issues? I can see a video of them, I can see their bio. Okay, I get that part. So then do they vote on the app, or is it just informational?
No, they vote. This is a contest. This is a way to, again, think about American Idol, but you only get to vote once. We're gonna use secure mobile voting technology. One of the things that surprised me is that I was expecting you have to spend millions to build technology to deliver secure mobile voting, but it is there, it's implemented, it's being used in states. So things have been done for the military years ago to make sure that our service members could vote overseas, on submarines, wherever. So we have the technology, to do this. And it's a nominating system, not an election system. So it's a sandbox for us to experiment on a way to, for the people to elevate a candidate. And think about it, if the people of the district have taken weeks to choose and raise a nominee, and one person wins that contest, who are you gonna vote for in the general election? The person the people chose, or the person that the party chose that is backed by super donors who probably don't even live in the district? We always complain about these representatives putting party before the people. And this system would guarantee that the people's voice matters. There are rules within the party that would not allow any representatives to accumulate war chests. They have to come back, go through the contest again with no money. So as a result of winning the contest, getting super PAC backing in the general election, they agree to empty their account at the end of the general election cycle and start from scratch again. That's how you restore accountability.
So if they're get basically selected by or nominated by the app, does that mean that they're running in the general election against the Democrat and the Republican?
Well, we're only targeting gerrymandered districts. This is not a complete election. This is a strategic plan to take out the 2-party system. To go run this system is favorable in gerrymandered districts. Quite frankly, it probably won't work as well in a swing district or a naturally uncompetitive district. You want to go into a district where there are opposition votes that are buried, that you can swing, like in a red district, to elect a pink, non-affiliated conservative and not affiliated to the party, and to do the opposite in a blue district is that you basically give voice to the opposition party that's been buried through gerrymandering. So our contest does that, and they do it by weighing in on these issues. They can at least get a few of their issues out of these representatives and push the representation pink or baby blue. So we want to create 2 factions, not a 3rd party, 2 moneyless factions in Congress that aren't influenced by party whips. That's how you break the bind of money.
So let's say that this Main Street party works, and now you've got, let's say, 30 or 90 people in Congress that are part of the Main Street Party. Are they just free to vote on their own? Is there going to be any kind of party leadership? What happens then?
I mean, we're really talking about restoring the way Congress worked back in the 50s and 60s when you had liberal Republicans and conservative Democrats and you had 4 factions within Congress. We're looking at creating a blue, there would be a caucus, there would be a moneyless caucus, 2 of them, one that would be conservative and one would be liberal. But it's a way to break down the influence of money. But the first goal is that once you have enough of these representatives in Congress that the Speaker of the House can't be elected by the party outside of the chamber, it moderates Congress. It forces the election of the Speaker back into the House. There's no way that anybody that's a party leader is going to win that position. It'll be somebody from the center. So the very first goal is to get enough people on the left and right that win, that basically create this faction, move the election of Speaker of the House into the Congress. This be historic. And it's a fair, practical, and inexpensive way to do it, and it's legal.
So Tom, I'm curious. So last couple of questions here. How did you come upon this? What do you do for a living, and how did you get into this?
Well, my background, I have an engineering degree, went to Carnegie Mellon University. I worked in factory automation. I stumbled upon an idea to pioneer remote working. I have 3 older sisters, and back in the 80s, there just weren't work opportunities for women. And my dad needed a bookkeeper, and I started a company called Bookminders, and it was really a paradigm shift. People weren't letting people take data outside of the office, and we revolutionized the way outsourced booking was done. We did remote working way before anybody was thinking about it. But during the COVID, I was convinced that partisanship would kill each other, and I've always been fascinated by this idea of gerrymandering. And I decided that if I got PPP money, that I would do something and pay it forward. I wouldn't run for office, and I knew if I tried to change laws, I'd die trying something rather than live doing. And I wanted to figure out a way to make a change without changing law. And I stumbled upon this idea when I wrapped my head around, hey, maybe a super PAC could be used for the common good. That the super PAC awards the prize money. It's actually doing the will of the people. Where super PACs now are either aligned to politicians or to causes that are specific. This super PAC would say, hey, if you guys follow the contest and this is a free and equal, and this is the selection of the people, we'll back that candidate in the general election. This totally creates a new way to use a super PAC that is nonpartisan. So that, to me, was the innovation.
Tom, so you were an engineer?
Yeah.
It's such an engineer idea.
Well, we design control systems, usually based on the laws of nature. This one's based on the laws of election. I looked at these laws and figured out how can we repurpose this system to work for us? And I think I've done it.
No, I totally get it. If engineers ran the country, we'd be in 1,000 times better shape. Because you can't BS building a bridge. You either know how to build it or you don't, right? And engineers care more about logic. And if you look at our political system through the lens of logic, you will be aghast at what you find, and you'll try to come up with something better, as Tom is. So last thing, Tom, is where in the process are you guys? When will, do you have a sense of when this will be available?
Well, our first goal is to get traction. We have a beta release coming out where you'll actually be able to see the contest work in a simulated fashion, like avatar candidates. You can use the quiz to select candidates. We want the public to learn how this works. I think if we try to launch this in an election without people understanding, we would fail for sure. And so, can we get this for the midterms? I doubt it. I mean, I think to really do this right, we're on a path to do something for 2028, figure out which districts we want to get to, find our super PAC funder, do this the right way. Do this like a business would launch a product. That's what we're doing.
All right. Tom Joseph and his group is called America's Main Street Party. And you just heard him explain the plan. I like it. Thank you for joining us, Tom. I appreciate it. I appreciate anyone trying to fix this system because one of us is going to figure it out. So if it's you, that's wonderful and beautiful, and we appreciate you for trying. Thank you for being an American patriot.
Jen, thank you so much for you having me on my show, mainstreetparty.org. Thank you so much.
All right, mainstreetparty.org, and we'll put the link down below. Thank you, Tom. All right, guys, we have an answer on Coons that I want to share with you before we wrap. So yes, for Blumenthal, Schumer, and Fetterman, that's in 28. That's of course going to take a little while. And as I said, I think AOC should run against Schumer. And everybody's going to wait to see if AOC runs. They're not going to do this giant campaign if AOC is going to come in at the end, because she's very, very, very likely to win if she does run. So I get all that. So we did. We asked you guys to look up Chris Coons to see if he has a primary. He does. Kelly Kay found out that he has an opponent, Christopher Beardsley. He's apparently a Delaware native and former Americo member and a progressive. Okay, so we're in business. The primary, this is really important, because if the primary is coming up, we won't have enough time. Turns out the primary is in September. That is really good news, because that means that there might be enough time to help Christopher Beardsley take out Chris Coons. Now, my guess is Coons has so much more money. And of course, all of the media will be kissing his ass on the left, the right, and the middle. Oh, beloved Israel lover Chris Coons. He has so much experience and money. You should all vote for Chris Coons. So that's what they write between the lines when they go, he's experienced and he's the leading person in this race. He's an incumbent. And that's all supposed to be wonderful. No, incumbent, when you see incumbent, assume poison, toxic. Someone who has depth of experience in selling you out. That's who Chris Coons is. So what we'll do next now, because we do this together, is we'll go find Christopher Beardsley. We'll ask him to come on the show. We'll find out if we can help him, because my God, if we took out Chris Coons at the last second like this, when absolutely no one on planet Earth expects it, that would be an earthquake, and that would be beautiful. And I would, God, I keep telling you, man, this is not, in the past, this was for right-wing tears, certainly for the MAGA guys who are still in the cult, happy to have their tears here too. But now this is mainly for the establishment. And it's where I've always been against the establishment. I've been collecting their tears for 20 years. But in this case, not only would I love to see the Democrats in the Senate cry, oh my God, I'd overflow my cup with their tears. Oh, how could you do this to our beloved colleague? I can't wait for that to happen, whether it's with Coons or 18 other guys in the 2028 primary. But also the media. The objective media will cry so hard if we defeat Chris Coons. They'll be the ones that are the most enraged. I can't wait for those segments on CNN with Jake Tapper looking down his nose at everyone. Oh, how dare you Democratic primary voters? Chris Coons is an incumbent. He's got experience. How dare you? Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. So please, let's do everything in our power to try to defeat Chris Coons. So Christopher Beardsley, whoever you are, we'd like to send an army in your direction. All right, guys, much love. When we say revolution, we mean it. It's a political one. Let's go do it together, fight together, learn together, win together. All right, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow.